On this day, all survivors who met the age requirement were herded into a blank white space to face a choice handed down by an AI. Reincarnate into a parallel world. The outcome and surroundings remain entirely unknown. You might be reborn as a human with completely random family circumstances, or any living thing at all, an animal, a plant, and so forth. Become a surviving refugee and board a mysterious, unknown train. You will leave the shattered Earth behind and travel to inhabited planets, or worlds across other universes, to scavenge resources, fight hostiles, and evacuate. I'd only just come of age today, barely taken a bite of my birthday cake. I blew $800 on that meal. You owe me big time. Ding. Warning issued. 1 infraction. Hearing the familiar, brainless AI voice that sounded just like Sister Doe echoing inside his head, Qin Shou let out a wail. He'd been reborn into this parallel world as an ordinary nobody. He couldn't memorize song lyrics, nor write sheet music. All stock markets, sports betting, and other speculative gambles operated by entirely different rules here, so he couldn't cash in on those either. With no grand strokes of luck falling his way, he'd always loved reading novels and could recall a handful of famous bestsellers word for word. This led him to scrape by as a struggling web novelist. He attended classes by day, then snuck over to one of the few public computers at the orphanage to churn out chapters late into the night for pocket change. To suddenly be thrown into this catastrophe left him surprisingly calm and adaptable. The only thing eating him up was this. He'd just moved out on his own, his glorious university life right around the corner, and he'd finally splashed out for that fancy feast he'd been craving. Only for the planet to blow up and take everything away. 800 whole yuan, gone before he'd even savored a single bite. Not to mention his gorgeous landlady, the former celebrity he'd spent ages building up a good rapport with. I pick option 2. 2. Terrified of the unforeseeable consequences of picking blindly, Qin Shou shouted his answer without hesitation. Was there even a real choice here? The AI had blown the Earth to smithereens. This was clearly forcing humanity to play its deadly survival game. He ranted silently to himself, and the next second, the phantom silhouette of a train materialized within the white void. At the same time, other survivors who'd chosen the second option flickered into view one after another, their faces etched with confusion, terror, and raw anxiety as they stared at the mysterious train about to arrive. Ding. Congratulations on making the correct choice. From this point onward, all subsequent options will be randomized based on your current circumstances. You may select one to navigate upcoming trials. Ding note. Every individual will receive their own unique set of randomized options moving forward. Fate critical point 1. You are about to board the train, yet you are weak, powerless, and paralyzed by fear of what lies ahead. You have been granted the following traits. Choose 2 out of 6 to boost your initial survival odds and quality of life. Boundless good fortune, supreme succubus allure, ox strength fists, elite hunter instincts, master combatant, star of solitude, bringing misfortune to all nearby. The options sparked wildly different reactions among all survivors set on boarding the train. Some lit up with delight, others stared in shock, many groaned in despair, and a few cursed outright. Qin Shou stared at the list, equally stunned. Since the traits were assigned randomly, it stood to reason some would be blessings and others curses. He only needed to glance at the varying expressions of the people around him to confirm that much. But what on earth was a star of solitude, bringing misfortune to all nearby? No tier rankings or detailed descriptions accompanied any of the traits. You simply had to guess and pick blind. He briefly wondered if it might be the classic protagonist fate. Endless rare opportunities and lucky breaks, but at the cost of everyone close to him dying one after another. If that was the case, it wasn't entirely unappealing. He'd grown up an orphan with no family to speak of, no blood ties anchoring him to anyone. He barely kept any friends either, cooped up indoors writing novels day in and day out. I picked number 1 and number 2. With no official ratings or explanations to go by, he'd simply follow what the names implied. Ding. Your selection has been confirmed. You now bear the traits boundless good fortune and supreme succubus allure. Truly, people always crave what they lack most. Admit it, anyone watching this is either a rugged old man or a handsome young lad, both far better looking than you. Ding. Life choice 1. You are about to board the level 1 survivor train, alongside 10,000 randomly selected fellow survivors from your original residential zone. Some may become your allies, others your rivals. You may reside long-term aboard this train in the future, or board other trains to embark on new survival journeys. However, cabin space and amenities aboard this train are limited. Choose one of the 3 following accommodations. Standard luxury 4-person sleeper suite, single gender or immediate family only. Cramped single cabin, premium luxury single suite. Wait a second, Sister Doe's AI can crack jokes and roast people now. Hold on, 10,000 people pulled randomly from my neighborhood. Does that mean the person I dropped 800 yuan on is here too? I'll take 3. Before the brainless AI voice identical to Sister Doe's could fire off another warning, Qin Shou shot back a retort and locked in his choice instantly, already predicting the AI's nagging. Come on, the third option was obviously the best by a mile. His newly activated boundless good fortune trait was already working its magic. Even with rotten options in the pool, there was guaranteed to be a top-tier pick like this one. Ding. Selection confirmed. Congratulations, you have secured permanent residency rights to the train's premium luxury single suite. You may now board the train. Notice, a train handbook will be automatically issued to you upon boarding. Read it thoroughly. A gold-plated room card materialized out of thin air in Qin Shou's palm. He learned with a quick mental scan that the card was permanently bound to him, impossible to steal, yet tradable with other survivors. Hearing the wails and furious shouts from the crowd around him, he feared drawing greedy eyes, so he quickly stuffed the card down his trousers and joined the chorus of despair. My luck's absolutely terrible. My luck's off the charts. Rumble. At long last, the mysterious Level 1 survivor train pulled to a steady stop before the 10,000 survivors. Outwardly, it resembled a 1980s Chinese green-skinned passenger train, yet it clearly hid untold wonders within. The train stretched endlessly, its length easily over 1,000 meters from front to back, each carriage standing roughly 4 meters wide and 4 meters tall. Qin Shou didn't hesitate, stepping straight into one of the carriages. Just as he suspected, the interior was far more modern than the exterior suggested. A 1-meter-wide central aisle ran the length of each carriage, lined with private suites on either side. He was busy wondering what amenities waited inside the cabins when a figure caught his eye, making his heart skip a beat. Landlady Lu Tao. In his past life, millions had begged to cast her as Lady Bai in hit dramas. In this parallel world, she'd once graced the silver screen too, before marrying a wealthy tycoon, retiring from show business, and becoming an elite landlady. Disclaimer, this takes place in a fictional parallel world. Her age and life trajectory differ from reality. Having retired from the spotlight far earlier and possessing endless wealth and leisure to dedicate to self-care, Lu Tao looked younger, softer-skinned, and had a far more striking figure than Qin Shou remembered. Her aura shifted seamlessly between gentle young matron and poised sophisticated woman, depending on how she dressed, utterly captivating every time. Fair skin equated to beauty, curves spoke for themselves. Not to mention her gorgeous figure. Every time she'd worn that slim velvet slip dress around the building, Qin Shou's teenage hormones had run wild. Originally, Qin Shou had only planned to rent a decent apartment near his future university. He needed quiet space to write his novels, and a nicer complex would draw more female undergrads and seniors to stick around longer. But when he found out Lu Tao, once a huge celebrity, owned rental and sale properties nearby, he'd contacted the realtor without a second thought. His specific demands eventually landed him a meeting with Lu Tao herself. His key requirement was a unit with its own private balcony garden, directly below her sprawling penthouse villa on the top floor. The rent was steep, and the property wasn't openly listed for sale. Only Lu Tao could approve the lease. As it happened, Lu Tao had endless free time with nothing to fill her days. When she heard Qin Shou was a promising young novelist, a self-styled title he'd inflated a little, curiosity piqued, and she agreed to meet him. They hit it off instantly, and Qin Shou signed the lease, becoming both her tenant and next-door neighbor. Now's my chance to step up as her reliable neighbor. Spotting Lu Tao pacing anxiously, Qin Shou hurried after her. Lu, sorry, Sister Lu, it's me. He laid a hand lightly on her shoulder, startling her so badly she nearly spun around to strike in self-defense. But when she turned and saw Qin Shou, all tension melted from her frame. It's you, Xiaoqin. I suppose you chose to become a survivor too. Lu Tao spent most of her days at home, passing the hours reading novels, watching dramas, and playing computer games with her daughter. She fully grasped their bizarre predicament. She'd never dared pick option 1 and gamble on reincarnation. Her daughter was still alive somewhere in this world, and she couldn't bear the thought of losing all chance to see her again. But her daughter boarded at an elite boarding school dozens of kilometers away in the suburbs, outside the random 10,000-person passenger pool assigned to this train. So she'd chosen option 2, praying her daughter had made the same pick. If so, they might cross paths again someday. I couldn't bring myself to risk reincarnation either. Qin Shou had approached Lu Tao with a quiet crush from the start, so the two had grown incredibly close over time. It wasn't long before Lu Tao confided her fear for her daughter. All she wanted now was to be with her child, yet the odds were stacked impossibly high against them reuniting anytime soon. As an aside, Lu Tao's daughter was a fan of Qin Shou's novels, which explained how Lu Tao had ended up reading his work and falling into their casual sister Lu Xiaoqin dynamic. What goes around comes around, after all. The blockbuster novels he'd loved in his past life were still massive hits in this parallel universe. Sigh. I had terrible luck with my cabin choices. My three options were a cramped single cabin, a shoddy single cabin, and a shared four-person standard suite. I ended up picking the regular single cabin. Grief over her daughter weighed heavy on Lu Tao's heart, yet she had her own living situation to contend with right now. Qin Shou walked beside her the whole way to her assigned suite. 3 options, and none of them ideal. She unlocked the door. Inside sat only one reasonably comfortable single bed, nothing more. The room felt tiny and stifling, with nothing but a small window and overhead storage cabinets built into the upper bunk frame. Even this single cabin counted as one of the better living arrangements aboard the train. The shared 4-person suites were undoubtedly far more cramped, and the shoddy single cabins likely lacked windows entirely. She didn't dare imagine how dismal those must be. Each carriage was barely 4 meters wide, split down the middle by an aisle lined with suites on both sides. There simply wasn't room for spacious quarters for everyone. Lu Tao's face fell with dismay. It's easy to grow used to luxury and hard to adjust to hardship. After years living as a wealthy socialite, even this halfway decent cabin left her feeling suffocated and miserable. Worst of all, there was no private en-suite bathroom. She'd wondered how they'd manage hygiene, but Qin Shou had spotted dedicated facilities carriages as they walked. A dining car, restroom car, shower car, laundry car, and a supply store car selling daily necessities, spaced every few carriages apart. Only restroom access and free drinking water cost nothing. Everything else required train points, especially the supply store, where goods were marked up steeply, and the train handbook made clear they'd have to earn every point themselves. By the way, Xiaoqin, where's your cabin? Lu Tao had been about to sink onto the bed and wallow in despair when she remembered Qin Shou trailing behind her, curiosity getting the better of her. Mine's all the way at the rear of the train. He grinned. I got lucky, premium luxury single suite. Nothing much to do right now. Want to come take a look? Lu Tao's eyes lit up instantly. There was nothing to occupy their time anyway. The train hadn't departed yet, and all they could see outside the windows was the blank white void. It couldn't hurt to check his suite out. Maybe, a hopeful thought flickered through her mind. They were both adults, capable of clear, rational judgment. Qin Shou's gaze wasn't the pure, innocent stare of a college boy, but he always kept his distance and never crossed any lines. Right now, she was completely alone, without a single familiar face to rely on. And the young, robust Qin Shou seemed a far safer ally than any stranger. On top of that, he was strikingly handsome, somehow even more attractive than he'd been just the day before, a shift she chalked up to her overwhelming sense of vulnerability. No one knew what horrors awaited them at the next stop, per the handbook. As survivors, they'd face constant danger, fight over limited supplies, and there was no guarantee either of them would live long enough to reunite with her daughter. Lu Tao was far too sharp to miss her best available option. Sure, I'll tag along. If it's as nice as it sounds, would you mind if I moved in with you? 2 people sharing space beats living alone, right? She slipped her arm through Qin Shou's as she spoke. Other survivors stared openly with bold, unmasked desire. Without Qin Shou by her side, men would have swarmed her by now. She was a pragmatist. Between random strangers and a familiar, capable young man like Qin Shou, the choice was obvious. Even if their living arrangement grew intimate down the line, it was still far safer than any alternative. Qin Shou and Lu Tao walked a long stretch before reaching the rearmost carriage. Passing through the connecting vestibule, they found only 4 suite doors lined up along a narrow left side aisle with panoramic observation windows. His suite sat on the right, the very last door at the train's tail. He swiped his gold room card to verify his identity and pushed the door open. No outsider could force entry unless explicitly invited. An invisible barrier blocked intruders, hiding the suite's interior entirely from outside view. A massive boost to personal safety, a feature exclusive to premium luxury suites. The soundproofing was flawless too. Even if a full-scale brawl erupted inside, neighboring suites and the aisle would hear nothing. Whoa, this is insane. It's exactly like those AI choice videos I've seen online. You know the ones. Offer you 100 million yuan, then make you pick a room to live in for years. The suite was surprisingly spacious. 3 meters deep and 5 meters long, totaling roughly 15 square meters. Furnished in minimalist modern Chinese style from wall decor to every piece of furniture. The entrance sat dead center of the room, opening into a small lounge area fitted with a low tea table that doubled as a dining surface, complete with a tea tray and ceramic teapot set. White oak interlocking wood flooring covered the entire space. Slippers or indoor cotton shoes were required inside. A narrow shoe cabinet stood to the left of the door, next to a full glass-walled bathroom adorned with delicate murals of lightly robed celestial maidens. To the right sat a writing desk and built-in wardrobe, followed by a 1.5-meter single bed. Luxury single suite or not, it was designed for one occupant only. Qin Shou wandered the suite, marveling at the wide panoramic observation window, fitted with retractable blackout curtains to block harsh light. Lu Tao, invited inside, could barely contain her awe the second she crossed the threshold. Comparison made everything crystal clear. Even her own single cabin had felt acceptable until she laid eyes on this space. From what they'd seen walking the length of the train, accommodations grew shabbier toward the front and far more lavish toward the rear. This was almost certainly the finest suite on the entire Level 1 train. I could drag my bedding over and just sleep on the floor here and still be comfortable, Lu Tao mused after taking in every corner. Her cheeks flushed faintly at the sight of the transparent glass bathroom and its delicate murals, and she voiced her thought intentionally. All they'd need to do was shift the tea table aside and unroll a thin mattress for her to rest on. Does that mean you're serious about moving in with me? Why would you turn me away? I cut your rent by a hefty discount when you first moved into the building, remember? Lu Tao hesitated briefly before settling into her resolve, shooting Qin Shou a playful, knowing smile befitting two consenting adults. I'd never say no. You're right, sharing space beats solitude by a mile. There's no televisions, computers, or entertainment aboard this train, so it'll be nice having someone to talk to and look out for each other. Besides, your cabin's still cramped and stifling no matter how you slice it. You'd be far more relaxed and comfortable here. A bitter smile tugged at Lu Tao's lips. She could refuse this arrangement, but she had no intention of doing so. She could tough out the shabby cabin alone if she had to, but surviving the unknown dangers ahead was an entirely different matter. Right now, she needed someone to rely on, someone to help her get by. Fine, I'll move in straight away. No need to fetch my bedding, though. I see spare pillows and extra blankets stashed here. I'll make do with those. I plan to sell my old cabin's room card instead. It should fetch a decent amount of points. The room cards were fully tradable. Now that she intended to live with Qin Shou, there was no sense hauling her bedding. Buyers would haggle the price down if the card came with used linens. With an uncertain future stretching out ahead, every train point counted. Sounds good. No need to trek back then. Qin Shou nodded without objection. There was extra space, just no mattress. Lu Tao would probably tough it out sleeping on the floor for a while, but she'd cave and crave the bed soon enough. What? Let him sleep on the floor while Lu Tao took the bed? Qin Shou wasn't stupid, and Lu Tao knew her place. She'd never even dared to ask for such a thing. She knew perfectly well who was the host, who was the guest, and who relied on whom. She'd never been an ordinary woman, neither in her past life nor this one. She'd risen from a regular nobody to a famous actress, then rushed into a flash marriage with a wealthy clan, eventually living as a rich socialite wife. Even after marrying into wealth, she'd played the dutiful wife and mother to perfection. Lonely as she'd been at home, she'd endured it all silently. But times had changed completely now. She had to make new choices. Lu Tao clenched her fists until her knuckles whitened, her resolve hardening in that instant. Besides, was she losing out here? Not in the slightest. Qin Shou was young, handsome, and well-built. Where was the downside? The only unknown was how outstanding he truly was, and his stamina. She hadn't forgotten which perks she'd picked earlier. Speaking of which, what 2 perks did you pick in Fate Choice 1? I'll go first. Mine are boosted luck and boosted charisma. Just as she'd thought, Qin Shou brought up her perks without delay. He'd coolly rebranded his top-tier succubus perk as charisma. Truth be told, Lu Tao's choices were almost certainly swayed by his succubus ability. It didn't hijack her mind all at once, just subtly guided her thoughts. That suited Qin Shou fine. The perk would have been thrilling, but it would have brought endless trouble otherwise. Everyone knew how troublesome succubi could be. My perks are Hawk Eye X-ray vision, and, she trailed off, hesitating to say the second one. She knew they shouldn't keep secrets now that they were living together. But she'd picked it without thinking much at first, desperate for any edge she could get. The perks never listed detailed descriptions. You only learned their full effects after unlocking them. And what? Qin Shou pressed. And daily stat growth. Basically, enter cultivation mode. Gain 1 stat point per minute of focused practice, capped at 5 points a day. She'd only taken the wording at face value at first. It did boost her strength. Still, it was an absurdly powerful free power-up. In fact, she suspected the perk had nudged her toward making the right decisions this whole time. It'd be a waste of such an overpowered ability otherwise. More importantly, she needed to grow stronger to survive. Whoa. Qin Shou was stunned once he heard the full effect of her perk. Cultivate to get stronger? 1 stat point per minute? And both of them gained the benefits together? Holy hell, Sister Lu was insane. How did she land such a broken perk? Still, all perks from Fate Choice 1 were top tier. His boosted fortune and her daily stat growth were surely among the best options available. For a second, Qin Shou wondered if his own luck perk was acting up again. There was no downside here. He'd hit the jackpot entirely. Well, not zero downsides, just none he could see right now. Young and full of vitality as he was, problems might crop up later. Then again, once their stats skyrocketed, he'd just be endlessly vigorous instead. Qin Shou itched to get started. Lu Tao's perk was far too tempting. Daily permanent stat boosts, 5 random points max each day, shared between them with no hard cap. Anyone would lose their mind over that. Right then, ding. Train departing. Destination, Novice Village. Most passengers are assigned different destinations. Threat level, 1 star. Estimated arrival time, 3 hours remaining. Note, mandatory disembarkation for this beginner trial. Designed to help survivors adapt to survival scenarios. Rest assured, Novice Village holds no powerful hostile creatures. Feel free to scavenge supplies here and trade them for points. However, watch out for danger from fellow survivors. Ding. Warning. All conflict and looting aboard the train are forbidden. See train manual for full rules. Equip and strengthen yourselves thoroughly. Death during exploration results in permanent erasure of your existence. No reincarnation. Damn, they force us into a beginner trial to get us warmed up. The cold, robotic voice of the AI echoed in every survivor's head, sounding eerily like Sister Do. Qin Shou mentally ranted, then looked over at Lu Tao. They sat side by side on the floor mat, sipping warm water, staring in heavy silence. The air turned thick and oppressive all at once. That countdown was a death sentence hanging over their heads. The train had silently set off, winding through a thick mountain forest. This was no longer Earth. They'd entered an unknown realm entirely. Sister Lu, I was drawn to you at first for who you are, but now it's different. I want you, and your incredible ability too. We've still got 3 hours left. The novice trial's supposed to be easy, but better safe than sorry, right? I won't push for long, just 5 minutes of focused cultivation together. Trust me. Qin Shou took a deep breath, stood, walked over to Lu Tao, and slipped an arm around her slender waist. Lu Tao stiffened, instinctively trying to push him away, but his overwhelming masculine aura turned her limbs weak, robbing her of all resistance. She knew exactly what she needed to do. Ever since she'd unlocked this perk, stayed on the train, and laid its full power out for him, she'd understood everything. Qin Shou's shoulders felt broad and solid, his muscles firm under her touch. Wait, before we get into cultivation, I brought the tiger I raised along with me. I've had it ever since my daughter was born. It's wary of strangers, so be careful. The hunter and hunted swapped roles in an instant. Lu Tao had hesitated, half willing at first, but it didn't take long for Qin Shou to witness just how fierce she could be. Shit, this tiger was vicious, truly ravenous. Little Qin, I'm giving you my tiger for good, honestly. But once I find my daughter, you've got to step up and protect both of us. Lu Tao's breath came in ragged gasps, her skin exuding a sweet peach fragrance. She'd laid all her cards on the table, fully opening up to him. Where she'd once harbored doubts, none remained. Qin Shou had blown all her expectations out of the water. Her choice hadn't just been correct, it was perfect. Damn tiger, stealing my moment. Qin Shou ignored her words, grabbing a big peach off the side and hurling it playfully. He'd paid homage at the Prime Minister's tomb once, sworn brotherhood there. Xiao Pai would have called him uncle. Protect a mother and daughter? He'd take full responsibility gladly. He'd hit the jackpot. Not only had Lu Tao given him her affection, she'd handed over the tiger she'd raised for years. The gift left him ecstatic. Only issue was the tiger's greedy streak. He'd have to discipline it, lest it get out of line. Enough distractions, back to cultivation. Random stat +1, random stat +1. They'd lost track of time, far exceeding their original 5-minute plan. Open character panel. Following the instructions in the manual, Qin Shou pulled up his status screen. Survivor. Qin Shou stats average adult baseline. 50 to 70 per stat. Human hard cap. 100. Stamina. 88 plus 2, Spirit, 91 plus 1, Strength, 69 plus 1, Speed, 66 plus 1. Perks, Boosted Fortune, Top-Tier Succubus. Other possessions, Luxury Single Cabin Keycard. Ugh. I used to train with a female coach regularly, mostly focusing on endurance and physique shaping. My strength and speed are definitely lacking now. Qinshu sighed, but there was nothing he could do. He'd never had much free time back then. Studying all day, writing web novels through the night. He'd counted himself lucky to squeeze in gym sessions, let alone targeted strength training. Before moving out of the orphanage, he'd even had to pick up odd jobs to get by. Still, his overall stats were solid. His high spirit stat was a gift of youth. Young people had boundless stamina and mental fortitude, perfect for pulling all-nighters writing. That would fade with age, though some folks gained a little raw strength as they grew older. Your stats must have gone up too, Sister Lu. Lu Tao shot him a coquettish glance, then pulled up her own panel. Every single stat had risen. As a woman, her baseline stats hovered around the 60 mark, with strength and speed lagging furthest behind. No matter, she'd worried about her weakness before. But with reliable Qinshu by her side, she could grind stats slowly over time. Before the AI's arrival destroyed Earth, she'd occasionally wondered if she'd fallen for Qinshu's tricks. Now there was no denying it. She'd surrendered completely. Hee, we've still got a little time left. Rest up a bit. Qinshu watched Lu Tao sniffling, nose red and stuffy, fighting off constant sneezes, and quickly looked away. All their suppressed tension had unraveled entirely. Time slipped by fast. They'd arrived at their destination. The scenery outside the window had shifted from dense forest to a ruined cityscape. The sight alone wasn't terrifying, but the streets littered with mangled corpses painted a horrifying picture. This place had clearly endured unbridled carnage once. Are we really safe here? Lu Tao, who'd redressed and fixed her appearance, paled instantly at the sight outside, her newly recovered body going weak all over again. She'd played plenty of horror games with her daughter, yet none of them held a candle to the raw, visceral terror unfolding before her eyes. Don't panic. If the AI says there's no dangerous monsters here, it's likely true. Besides, this trial's mandatory. We can't hide and skip it. Qinshu's own heart raced uneasily. He'd have gagged if the windows weren't so far away, terrified he'd vomit too. Ding. All survivors must disembark within 10 minutes. Then choose one of 3 paths to begin your scavenge mission. Path 1, Alley Streets. Path 2, Woodland Trail. Path 3, Escalator Corridor. Note: each path teleports you to a random separate starting zone. No monster threats exist in this novice village. Your only task is to gather high-value supplies within the time limit. Move fast, loot what you need, then evacuate. After stepping off the train, everyone found themselves in a blank white chamber, standing before 3 glowing portal gates, paralyzed with indecision. Through each gate, they could glimpse the terrain beyond. The first opened onto the ruined city streets, the same corpse-strewn vista they'd seen from the train windows. The second looked like a park path, seemingly calm and appealing. The third led into a dim, shadowy escalator hall, equally lined with rotting corpses. How should they choose? My gut's telling me to pick the third one. Places that look deadly aren't necessarily dangerous, but they draw far fewer rival survivors out to attack us. That's assuming the AI's truthful. The only real risk is other humans. We'll just have to push past the gruesome sights. Qinshu took a deep breath, activated his hyper-analytical mind, and stepped through the third portal without hesitation. His reasoning held firm. Lu Tao's strength had returned a little. She met Qinshu's unwavering, serious gaze and nodded. She hadn't forgotten his boosted luck perk. It might shield them from harm and net them massive rewards. I'll follow your lead. They'd shared everything together. Qinshu would never betray her trust, and she needed him just as much as he needed her. Soon, other survivors made their choices. Some grouped up into teams, others ventured out alone. Groups streamed through the first and second gates, vanishing instantly. Far fewer people chose Path 2, and barely anyone dared step through Path 3. Only the bold, the powerfully gifted, or those who'd rolled strong combat perks dared pick it. Qinshu laced his fingers through Lu Tao's soft pale hand and stepped forward. Aloham echoed. Countdown remaining, 3 hours. The scene shifted, depositing them before the broken escalators of a massive abandoned shopping mall. Dim darkness blanketed the space, all power long dead. Dozens of bodies littered the floors, all killed fighting over supplies. Lu Tao doubled over, retching violently. Thankfully, the milk she'd drunk earlier had fully digested. Qinshu's jaw tightened, forcing himself to stay calm again and again. He didn't dare take a deep breath, terrified he'd vomit too. Let's head upstairs. The broken windows up there let sunlight stream in. It'll be easier to breathe. He forced himself to gesture toward the escalators leading to the upper floors. That level housed the department store section, right beside the shattered windows. They'd definitely find supplies there. Time was limited. They needed to grab as much valuable loot as possible to trade for points or keep for themselves. As for returning, the portal behind them hadn't sealed. Sure enough, the air grew less putrid once they climbed the escalators, though there were even more corpses strewn across the upper level. We have to get used to this. Let's move. Hand in hand, they ventured deep into the shelving aisles. Most stock had already been ransacked, leaving only sparse goods scattered beside the dead. They found a metal shopping cart, and both forced themselves to scavenge usable, unspoiled supplies beside the corpses. Tissues, salt packets, packaged snacks, bottled water. They couldn't confirm expiration dates, but the bodies looked only days old, so the goods were likely still edible. Where had all the living humans gone? They had no clue. This wasn't Earth, that much was certain. Every sign bore unfamiliar script, and the corpses wore alien clothing styles. Suddenly, Qin nearly tripped over a corpse in the dim light. He caught himself, bracing one hand against a shelf, barely avoiding face planting into the cadaver. He might have minded if it was a woman's body, but this one was a man with a grotesque, mangled face. Wait, there's something in his backpack. Regaining his balance, Qin knelt and unzipped the pack. Sunlight slanting through the windows glinted so brightly it nearly blinded him. Pure gold bars, glowing bright. Holy hell, piles of gold. Did my boosted fortune perk kick in again? He marveled, wondering if his luck stat had triggered the find. But what good was gold here? It was useless for survival. Lu Tao hurried over beside him, equally shocked. From what they could tell, this world was still in the early doomsday stages, with everyone fighting tooth and nail over food. So why was this man hauling a backpack full of gold? Had he looted it from a jewelry store? Little Qin, this backpack of gold must trade for a huge number of points. But we don't need gold right now. Food and daily necessities are far more vital. Lu Tao tried to reason with the gold-struck Qin, urging him to stay grounded. In this survival game, precious metal held almost no practical value. You're right. Wait. No, hold on. If there's a market carriage on the train where we can buy supplies with points, why waste time grabbing cheap, everyday goods? Even if we keep some, they won't net many points. Qin agreed with her at first, then a revelation hit him. Basic food and household items were worthless in the grand scheme of things. All right. Lu Tao stared blankly, shifting a woman's corpse aside with her foot to grab a pack of sanitary pads from its arms. I'm taking a gamble here. Remember what the AI said? Gather high-value supplies within the time limit. That line has hidden meaning, I'm sure of it. Qin caught faint noise outside and hurried to the broken window. Across 2 streets, 3 men were violently tearing apart a storefront, hunting for supplies. Lu Tao stepped beside him and activated her Hawk-Eye X-ray vision, letting them see clearly. The men planned to steal a bicycle for hauling a suitcase full of loot. Through the suitcase walls, her vision revealed an arsenal of crude weapons. Kitchen cleavers, watermelon slices, heavy wrenches, metal hammers. No wonder they needed a bike to haul everything. I get it now. Qin's hypercognitive ability activated once more. They're hoarding weapons to use themselves, resell to other survivors, or exchange for points. Sister Lu, my original theory still holds. Of course, we'll grab a small stock of food and basics too. You keep loading ordinary supplies into this cart, and I'll grab a second cart to hunt for high-value loot. You never know what might turn up. Even though it made little logical sense, the moment the passive trait Grand Auspicious Fortune kicked in and let him loot a backpack full of gold, Qin's gut instinct screamed that this gold could be traded for massive amounts of points. What's more, this was only the starting tutorial stage. Wasn't this obviously the system handing every survivor a chance to build their initial resource stockpile? Every valuable supply, food, daily necessities, anything at all, could be exchanged for points. People always said gold was worthless in the end times. That might hold true, yet it was also a narrow-minded misconception. So Qin was taking a gamble here. Don't ask why. Blame all those hours he spent playing Delta Force. He was a self-proclaimed king of hoarding shiny loot. He simply couldn't walk away from glittering gold. The way he'd stared at that backpack brimming with gold earlier, like a man laying eyes on the Imperial Seal, had been far too genuine. That was exactly why Lu Tao had tried to talk him out of it. Qin told Lu Tao to keep using her trait Hawkeye X-ray vision to scout the surroundings. Unfortunately, the dim lighting limited how much she could see. Still, once Qin spotted the multiple jewelry stores on the ground floor through her vision, he told her to stay put and keep gathering daily supplies while he headed down to explore. She just needed to shout if anything went wrong. It didn't take long for Qin Shou to find a second shopping trolley. He then headed down the flat escalator to the mall's ground floor to check out the other shops. It was a comprehensive shopping mall. Apart from clothing and other retail stalls on the ground floor, there were bound to be plenty of jewelry stores. Sure enough, he found one right away. Whoa, you've even got a sledgehammer. Looks like you were also after the gold. Wait, hold on. These shops have already been looted before, just not thoroughly. Most survivors prioritized food over precious metals after all. Qin Shou glanced at a corpse lying nearby and huffed a laugh. He picked up the sledgehammer and started smashing the glass display cabinets with all his strength. 80, 80, 80. The glass shattered to pieces. Qin Shou grabbed a relatively clean red carpet and laid it out in the trolley, then swept every gold ornament from the counters onto the fabric. One shop after another. By the faint, dim light seeping through the mall's main entrance, Qin Shou launched his full-scale plunder. Time was tight, and the crashing noise risked drawing nearby survivors, so he worked fast and brutally. He didn't even care if the hammer blows damaged the gold itself. Wow, the statues people worship in this world are all naked? They look a lot like Western art sculptures. He'd stumbled across a larger jewelry store, and the massive solid gold display pieces left him stunned for a second. They were undeniably exquisitely crafted, yet overtly risque, steeped in artistic flair, enough to make him pause and judge them for a few seconds. As for whether they held any divine meaning, that was another matter entirely. Probably just a difference in cultural customs. Take everything, all of it. His in-game ID on Delta Force had been Sam Lightly. He left nothing standing wherever he went. Who's there? A sudden twinge of alertness shot through Qin Shou. He instantly raised the sledgehammer into a defensive combat stance. Hey! A young woman with an unbelievably stunning figure stood before him. She boasted a generous bust and stunning curves, not the soft, voluptuous type, but a naturally well-endowed frame. Between her silhouette and her dust-streaked face and messy hair, she reminded him of someone he knew well. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. I got chased out by my group, and I just heard glass smashing, so I came over out of curiosity. The young woman rambled in fluent Japanese, but the AI Dojia automatically translated her words straight into his mind. Even without the AI's translation, Qin Shou would have understood her anyway. He'd binged countless anime and Japanese films over the years. You're from Japan? Qin Shou narrowed his eyes. He wouldn't mind channeling his patriotic fervor right now to put this Japanese woman in her place, a small form of symbolic retribution. But there was something undeniably familiar about her. Her voice was soft, alluring, and hauntingly recognizable. Yes, I'm Japanese. I'm terribly sorry for disturbing you. I'll leave at once. Wait, did I say you could go? Hey, the Japanese woman jumped in fright, nearly collapsing to the ground. Qin Shou's voice carried undeniable authority and brute force, yet strangely, it drew her in. A man like him radiated such a strong sense of safety. In the faint stray sunlight filtering into the mall, she could make out his sweat-soaked shirt clinging tight to his frame, revealing a powerfully muscular physique. He looked exactly like the ideal male lead she drew in her indie manga. And on top of that, she swore she'd seen him somewhere before, though the dim light made it hard to tell for sure. Come over here. Why, yes. She stumbled toward him nervously, unable to explain her own conflicting feelings. Logically, she should run, yet she found herself desperate to draw closer, especially if he really was someone she knew. The second she stood within arm's reach of him, her body flushed hot all over. You're Lady Yukiana, aren't you? That had been her online handle. Qin Shou shifted to one side, letting more sunlight fall across her face. The sight left him utterly shocked. Had his trait grand auspicious fortune struck again? This really was an old acquaintance. He hadn't recognized her at first because her voice trembled with fear, plus there was always a subtle difference between video call appearances and real life. She was even the illustrator who'd drawn the art for his novels. Years prior, he'd gone out of his way to commission a Japanese artist, specifically seeking someone who drew alluring, eye-catching art to draw in readers. Back then, AI art hadn't existed, so he'd hired professional illustrators at premium rates. Might as well pick the best in the field. He'd even published one of his hit light novel series in Japan, Sword Art Online included. The heroine designs for Asuna and the rest had all been drawn by this very artist, known online as Lady Yukiana. You're Prime Minister Beyond. That had been Qin Shou's pen name and online alias in Japan. That's me. I was a lot younger back then. His casual admission softened the tense atmosphere instantly. Qin Shou couldn't help but take another long look at the famous Lady Yukiana. She was a top-tier star in Japan's manga and illustration circles, with a massive fan base even back in China. Her popularity had skyrocketed after her personal documents and casual ID photos leaked online. Her breathtaking looks had won over countless fans. On top of that, she cosplayed, streamed games, voiced characters, and sang, which drew hordes of otaku fans crazy for her. A woman who loved and created anime art, and was stunningly beautiful to boot. Who wouldn't adore her? Lady Yukiana, what are you doing here? You said your group chased you out? Chinsho dropped his scrutinizing gaze and asked her earnestly. At his words, Yukiana Yukino's face twisted into a bitter frown. Her teammates had grown jealous of her, turned hostile, and driven her out mid-resource gathering. Yikes, her real name really was Yukiana Yukino. The origins of her family surname were lost to history, yet the clan had long been tied to the legendary Yuki-onna snow spirit. The reason was simple. Every woman born into her bloodline possessed fair, pale skin and stunning beauty, and one of her ancestors had even ruled Japan as an empress. Yukino was a direct descendant of that imperial line, generations removed. You were only assigned a standard 4-person cabin, paired with a trio of women. At first you all got along fine and agreed to team up, but once you'd gathered enough supplies together, they ganged up to drive you out. They even attacked you and threatened to kill you. Yukino explained how she'd wound up stranded here. She and Chinsho hadn't boarded the same level 1 train. His had been an old green-skinned train, while hers was blue-skinned. Still, that hadn't stopped them from crossing paths. Most trains headed for different destinations, but a small subset dropped survivors off at the same hub, allowing cross-train encounters. Survivors could even transfer onto other trains afterward. The train handbook clearly stated anyone could board any train as long as they passed through the same return gate. The catch was that cross-train passengers would have no assigned cabin bunks upon arrival. They needed to purchase one with points to ride long-term. Without points for a bunk, they couldn't stay aboard. A bunk was essentially a permanent residency pass on the train. Alternatively, existing passengers could invite others to stay in their own cabins free of charge. I'm so unbelievably glad I ran into you, Prime Minister Beyond Koen. Don't call me that online alias. Just Chinsho is fine. Understood, Chin Koen. Genuine relief flooded Yukino's features. Her cheeks stayed flushed, and she trembled slightly. Before she'd risen to fame, Chinsho had reached out to commission her illustrations, giving her steady income and the motivation to keep creating. Later, she'd helped him publish his novels in Japan, sparking years of back-and-forth communication, text chats at first, then video calls. Their only regret was that busy schedules had always kept them from meeting in person. She'd never figured out how to confess her feelings for this outstanding man from the Dragon Nation. Yukiana Yukino, would you like to join my team? May I really? Of course. We're old acquaintances after all. I'd be honored. Please let me join your group. Chin Koen. Yukino felt a huge weight lift off her shoulders, safe and secure at last. She stepped close to Chinsho and bowed repeatedly, her ample chest bouncing with every motion, distracting him thoroughly. Chinsho struggled to keep his composure. Ahem. If that's settled, stick close and hold my hand when we head back. Speaking of which, what are your 2 special traits? One is Master Key, and the other? It's. A strange sense of familiarity washed over Chinsho. Lu Tao had hesitated exactly like this when she told him her own second trait. Could it possibly be the same kind of odd ability? It's healing milk. I mean, she could continuously produce milk with potent healing properties. It mended physical wounds and calmed frazzled emotions alike. The amount she could generate depended on her nutrition intake. The more plentiful and high-quality her meals, the more she could produce. Chinsho drew in a sharp breath, then gagged violently. Ugh, he'd forgotten how rank the air in the mall was, triggering a wave of nausea. Chin Koen, are you all right? Yukino rushed forward and gently patted his hunched back to ease his discomfort. I am fine. Setting aside your second trait for a moment, your first one, Master Key, does it let you unlock any lock with your ability? Yukino nodded vigorously. It's bizarre. With such a useful power, how could those 3 women grow jealous enough to cast you out? Yukino's expression turned bitter again. Her skill was undeniably powerful, yet it had been useless while scavenging the mall. Food supplies had been scarce, and her teammates had grown greedy and possessive over every scrap, turning their resentment on her. Never mind. Your ability is far too valuable. Come help me right now. My arm's worn out swinging this sledgehammer. Hurry and open all these locked cabinets. Glancing at the countdown timer showing only 1 hour left, Chinsho put his new recruit straight to work. Her power was truly game-changing. A single tap of her finger on any lock popped it open instantly. It even worked on heavy safes and reinforced metal storage doors. Qin Shou grabbed her hand and dragged her back to the jewelry shops he'd hit earlier, ordering her to unlock every locked compartment she could find. Hurry, time's running short. Help me load all this gold. Right away, Qin-kun. Yukino couldn't wrap her head around his obsession with gold. Shouldn't they be prioritizing food and daily supplies in a crisis? Still, she didn't dare question his judgment. She trusted him completely. Fresh off being cast out of her old team, she feared upsetting him and getting expelled all over again. It would break her heart. Huh? Why were you down here? Qin Shou's scavenging frenzy was interrupted when Lu Tao appeared nearby. I've gathered all I can upstairs. I've filled 2 full trolleys already. There's nothing more to find back deeper in the mall. It's far too dark to venture alone. Also, who's this woman? Lu Tao pointed at Yukino, who was busy piling gold jewelry into the trolley, curiosity thick in her tone. The real reason she'd rushed downstairs was panic. She'd been using Hawkeye X-ray vision and spotted an unfamiliar beautiful woman standing beside Qin Shou, having heard none of the glass smashing from the ground floor. She'd wasted precious time picking out high-quality silk stockings before rushing down. So unfair. That's more than enough supplies to tide us over. As for her, she's an old online friend of mine, Yukiana Yukino. She's joined our team now. Qin Shou gave a quick recap of everything that had happened, and Yukino bowed politely to greet Lu Tao. The 2 women locked eyes, instant alarms ringing in both their heads. Yukino was young and breathtakingly gorgeous, yet Lu Tao radiated an even more mature, refined allure, an unmistakable warm, feminine glow that practically oozed off her. As a manga artist who researched endlessly for drawing reference, Yukino instantly recognized that aura. Meanwhile, Lu Tao felt a twinge of jealousy and nervousness facing the younger, curvaceous newcomer. She had no fear Qin Shou would abandon her. She knew how invaluable her daily growth trait was. He'd seen its power firsthand. But she worried he'd start paying far less attention to her from now on. All right, we're running out of time. This trolley's nearly full. Go find another empty shopping cart nearby. Then cover the loads with clothes or carpets so we can fit more. Lu Tao nodded and hurried off to fetch a 3rd trolley, pitching in to stack gold and gemstone jewelry alongside Qin Shou. They worked non-stop until only 10 minutes remained on the countdown. Every jewelry store in the vicinity had been stripped bare. Other survivors had looted small portions earlier, but Qin Shou had carted off every last remaining piece. The 3 of them pushed the 2 overflowing gold trolleys back up the flat escalator to the 2nd floor, parking them beside Lu Tao's 2 trolleys crammed with daily necessities right in front of the return gate. Phew, all done. This gamble will make or break us. Even if the gold's worthless, Lu's 2 trolleys of supplies will last us ages either way. We won't lose out no matter what. Qin Shou wiped sweat from his forehead, buzzing with quiet triumph. There was nothing quite like pulling off a risky, thrilling haul. He'd been too hyped to feel an ounce of exhaustion. Now let's head back. Each of them gripped a trolley handle and dragged the piles toward the glowing return gate. Aloham echoed out. Instead of spawning in the vast white central plaza, they were transported to a tiny, isolated white chamber, where a single cold robot stood waiting alone. Greetings, survivor. Would you like to exchange your supplies for points? The cold, synthesized voice of AI Dojia echoed through the space, projecting a holographic screen split into 2 panels. One labeled exchange for points, the other return to cabin. Qin Shou was pleasantly surprised by the free cabin delivery option. It would stop other survivors from eyeing their loot greedily. Can all of this gold be exchanged for points? Affirmative, survivor. Dojia's tone held no praise, nor did it reveal any extra clues. Still, the confirmation alone proved Qin Shou's hunch had been correct. Now it was time to see just how big his win would be. He wheeled both trolleys piled high with gold and jewelry onto the exchange for points platform. Ding, total exchangeable points. 298,300,000. Qin Shou counted the digits 3 times to be sure. 298,300,000 points. He sank straight to the floor and burst into wild laughter. The 2 trolleys held plenty of gold jewelry, though no solid gold bars filled every inch of space. The system also deducted value by ignoring craftsmanship and jewelry markup prices, lowering the total exchange rate slightly. None of that mattered. He'd hit the jackpot with his gamble. Lu Tao stood frozen, speechless from shock, while Yukino flushed bright red with unbridled excitement. At last, she understood exactly how brilliant Qin Shou's seemingly bizarre plan had been. Gold might be useless in the wider end times, but this tutorial stage operated by entirely different rules. Or so she suspected. It might just be a special rule exclusive to the starting tutorial. Qin Shou relied on reverse thinking and spotted a crucial insight. He gambled that the valuable supplies included gold, jewelry, and other items inherently pricey in the real world. There was no telling whether future stages would offer such lucrative loopholes. Upcoming challenges might be pure survival ordeals, or other missions where all you had to do was raid, fight, then evacuate immediately. One thing was certain, he'd struck gold big time. Exchange all of these two. Sister Lu, Yukino, let's trade in everything we don't need. I'll head to the mall carriage later to pick out new gear, better supplies, nicer food, all of it. Now that he had ample points, the scavenged ordinary daily goods held no appeal. They even felt tainted with bad luck. Lu Tao raised no objections and promptly started sorting through their haul. Yukino snapped out of her excitement and hurried over to help as well. In the end, nothing was kept. Every last item was dumped into the point exchange terminal. New goods only, no worn-out leftovers. Wait a minute, Lu Tao seemed to have stashed a small backpack, something hidden inside it. But it hardly mattered anymore. Ding. Total exchangeable points, 4,691. Over 4,000 points in total. The several sets of luxury clothing Lu Tao picked barely accounted for a fraction of the sum. Clearly, the system ignored inflated market markups and valued items at their true intrinsic worth, just like the gold jewelry earlier. Normally, all this food and daily necessities from 2 carts would only net around this many points. Without the clothes, it'd be even less. After all, the scavenged leftover goods were nothing high value to begin with. Qin Shou sighed, once more grateful for his earlier call. The fortune favors the bold trait was absolutely game-changing. If it hadn't activated to guide him, he might never have noticed this loophole at all. The three of them returned to their carriage, stopping right by the door. They kicked off their shoes and padded barefoot straight into the bathroom to wash their hands and feet. They planned to buy brand new clothes from the mall carriage later, so they stripped off their current outfits first. Lu Tao wasted no time shedding every layer without a shred of self-consciousness. The sight left Yukino flustered and at a loss for how to react. Hee, you two get cleaned up first. I'll go grab new clothes, we're all reeking. A bath'll do you good. Qin Shou glanced at Lu Tao, catching the faint glint of provocation in her eyes and quiet hostility directed at Yukino. He instantly pieced together what was going on and smiled, opening the carriage door to step outside. There'd be no catfight between them. Yukino had the gentle, yielding temperament of a traditional Yamato Nadeshiko. She would never stand up to Lu Tao, who was overcome with jealousy and a sense of threat. Ding. All survivors have returned. Remaining passenger count, 9,573. Ding. Congratulations to all for clearing the novice stage and adapting to the doomsday survival journey. As a reward, you will receive a complimentary lavish dinner tonight random selection. Ding. The trading system is now live. Survivors may trade with one another freely. Spend points in the mall carriage to purchase supplies, weapons, and more. You may also rent or buy room cards, switch carriage compartments, or upgrade to luxury suites. All survivors are advised to rest well and fully stock up on equipment during this window. The moment Qin Shou stepped out of the carriage, the AI hostess's voice echoed in his mind. The first announcement hit hard. Out of the original 10,000 survivors, 427 had perished or vanished over the novice stage. There were only 3 likely fates for them. Some might have crossed paths with survivors from other trains and left with them. Some had met grisly ends within the novice zone. Others could have gotten lost, trapped forever in the stage's wilderness. Neither a trivial nor negligible number. Plenty of empty bunks would have opened up on the train. Some survivors would surely swap shared compartments for private single suites. Lu Tao's spare room card could now be sold for points. Glancing at the 1-hour countdown until free dinner service, Qin Shou smiled and headed toward the mall carriage. Wow, there's a crowd here. A queue had already formed by the time he arrived. Along the way, he'd seen other survivors heading to the bath carriages to wash off, or stopping by the dining carriage to buy milk tea and other drinks. Everyone had scraped together at least a handful of points, so nearly everyone had something to splurge on. From their mixed expressions of elation and regret, it was plain to see some had made far smarter choices than others. Just listen to the chatter. New arrivals were always eager to share their wins and show off. Can you believe the gold watch and necklace I pried off a corpse got me this many points? I originally planned to keep them for myself. What a waste. I should have hunted down more jewelry. What? Those things can all be exchanged for points. Damn it. I only looted food and makeshift weapons. My points are garbage. I lost out big time. Hee, guess what I found? A fancy motorbike with the keys still in it. Full tank of gas too. Rode it back, traded it in for over 50,000 points. Ugh, why didn't I think of that? I'm kicking myself. What are you all talking about? I feel like I missed $1 million opportunity. The conversation quickly erupted into a noisy buzz. Out of thousands of survivors, a handful must have landed on the same winning logic as Qin Shou. He wasn't the only sharp mind or lucky soul on this train. He could never afford to underestimate anyone here. Soon he spotted survivors bloated with pride after earning massive point hauls. They practically screamed about their wealth and good fortune, desperate for everyone's attention. Thanks to them spreading the word, every survivor would soon learn that high-value real-world items yielded staggering point returns. The age-old doomsday mantra "gold is worthless" might well be shattered here. Yet those braggarts, parading their wealth and power, were clearly sizing up the female survivors around them. The outcome was predictable. Several women quickly latched onto the wealthy men, seeking protection and resources. Such scenes would only grow more common as time went on. Forced advances were forbidden aboard the train, but manipulative soft tactics were fair game. Qin Shou stepped up to the kiosk, scanning the price list on the touchscreen. Instant noodles, 5 points. Soda, 2 points. Tissue paper, 2 points. No staff manned the counters. Only interactive screens and pickup chutes dispensed goods. Daily necessities and food were cheap, priced roughly equivalent to their real-world cash value. Meals in the dining carriage followed the same pricing logic, confirming Qin Shou's earlier theory. Weapons, however, came with steep price tags. Basic steel daggers started at 20 points, while premium forged blades cost 200. The gap in quality was stark. Much like online shopping, you got what you paid for. Cheap blades worked in a pinch, but premium ones were far sturdier and better balanced. Not all steel knives were created equal. Buddy, hurry it up. The rest of us are waiting to shop. Yeah, quit lingering over every item. Word is you can buy a portable phone to shop remotely if you can't make up your mind now. Harried by the growing queue behind him, Qin Shou skipped browsing the weapon racks. He quickly grabbed the essentials he needed, purchased 3 portable phones, then hauled armfuls of goods from the pickup chute back to his suite. Meanwhile, as Qin Shou waited in line at the mall, inside the bathroom, Lu Tao stared at Yukino, overcome with shock and even a twinge of panic. This woman was the perfect heroine plucked straight out of an anime. The ultimate dream girl every otaku fantasized about. Not only did Yukino own a tiger cub just like Lu Tao, hers was full, soft, and plush. How could anyone raise a tiger so round and velvety? She drew manga, the exact kind millions loved to read. She sang, danced, and worked as a voice actress for anime and game characters. She'd even released original singles and performed opening themes for blockbuster hit anime series. Back in her old life, she kept up a rigorous fitness routine, practiced yoga, cooked exquisitely, and kept her home spotlessly clean. Was there anything this woman couldn't do? She'd once been a popular virtual streamer, drawing art live, chatting casually with viewers, gaming, and belting anime-themed songs. Her channel had blown up online for a time. Fans swarmed her streams, calling her mom, spawning viral memes like "execute all simps." Countless followers showered her with gifts to win her favor, yet she'd retired entirely to avoid gossip and prevent Qin Shou from misunderstanding her intentions, giving up all that fame and opportunity just for him. And Yukino wasn't even curvy by nature. Her figure was naturally stunning, flawless. Her skin glowed soft pink after washing, smooth and delicate. She mirrored Lu Tao's own trope in every way. And that was only the start. How could such a perfect woman exist in this world? If she aged just another year or two, she'd carry the elegant aura of a mature married woman, truly living up to her online alias, Yukino the Lady. My daughter's a huge fan of your manga. She adores the characters you draw. I caught her secretly mining materials online one day. What? You've known Qin Shou for 6 years? How old was he back then? He funded you through all your hardships, helping you turn your life around. So you were free to pursue your hobbies, followed his advice to try new creative paths, and every single one blew up? Just to pick up little ways to take good care of him? You've admired him and loved him from afar all this time. You say men from your country pale in comparison to this man from China. He carries the true bearing of a real man. He's kind, yet hard to win over, so you even read adult romance novels. You planned to confess to him at the end of the year, when his university winter break started. You feared he'd be lonely spending the holidays alone, and thought the timing was finally right for you too. That was the point of those romance novels. How utterly devoted was she? Those books weren't meant for this level of quiet devotion. Lu Tao bit back a furious outburst, barely holding back a frustrated yell. A crushing sense of danger washed over her. She could not lose her place beside Qin Shou, not to this anime-perfect woman. How could someone this flawless even exist? How was Qin Shou this lucky to have such a head-over-heels romance-obsessed girl wrapped around his finger? Worst of all, Yukino doted on him like an overprotective little sister. Someone needed to take this hopeless romantic off her hands. Please, Sister Lu, let me stay by Qin Jun's side. I can't go on without him. Yukino sank to her knees in the bathroom, begging earnestly, pleading for Lu Tao's mercy. How can you be like this? Lu Tao was stunned all over again. Yukino was so gentle, so obedient. How could she possibly keep a cold distance or issue warnings to such a docile girl? Part of her even wanted to step aside and give Yukino every chance with Qin Shou. This woman was genuinely terrifying. All right. I only wanted to hear about your history with Qin Shou. I never meant to make things hard for you. We're teammates now, after all. We might even become close sisters. She suddenly remembered Yukino had a rare, powerful trait of her own. Earlier, she'd sampled the special healing milk Yukino's body produced. It eased stress and calmed frayed nerves remarkably well, even though Yukino had no children of her own. Qin Shou returned to the luxury suite after a long wait in the mall queue. Lu Tao and Yukino had just finished washing up, back in their original clothes. Let me help you. Qin Jun, you've worked hard. Rest now, we'll sort all this out. Lu Tao and Yukino rushed forward one after the other to take the heavy bags of supplies from Qin Shou. Lu Tao stumbled slightly as she reached for the packages. The two women quickly sorted through the haul. Snacks, beverages, piles of daily essentials, and several sets of loose, breathable casual wear for immediate use. All right, I also picked up 3 of these portable phones. They're pricey, 10,000 points apiece. Qin Shou pulled 3 ordinary-looking smartphones from his pocket. Plain in appearance, yet invaluable. They never needed charging and maintained full signal anywhere on the train. They couldn't access the original internet or mobile games, but housed a library of every manga, novel, drama, and film ever released on Earth. All media could be searched and streamed, though viewing cost small amounts of points. It was a worthwhile luxury to pass the time and soothe mental strain. Other built-in apps included remote mall ordering. Users could place purchases on their phones, then collect goods in person, with no delivery service available yet. A chat system split into a global train lobby and private friend channels, limited only to survivors aboard this train. Cross-train communication was locked. Those who'd splurged on phones were already flooding the lobby chat, bragging about their point hauls, recruiting teammates, or sending private flirtatious messages. Everyone knew exactly what that entailed. The final exclusive feature was reserved for luxury suites, full interior renovation upgrades. Within the limits of Tier 1 train permissions, occupants could expand rooms and replace furniture. Qin Shou's suite was already the highest tier accommodation on the train, so upgrade options were limited, yet still worth investing in. Yukino's cheeks flushed as she laid out the new casual wear, towels, and toiletries for him. The bathroom wall was clear glass, leaving her torn between shyness and quiet anticipation. She and Lu Tao had only given themselves a quick rinse to wash off sweat and grime. They planned a long, relaxing soak in the tub later. She loved luxurious baths, milk baths, pearl baths, rose petal baths, all of them. Got it. Qin Shou grabbed the toiletries and smiled, casually sliding open the glass shower door to step inside. Lu Tao and Yukino pretended to examine their new phones, yet both stole frequent glances toward the bathroom. Yukino's heart raced with excitement above all else. Qin Shou truly fit the mold of her ideal male lead. If she'd brought sketch paper and pencils, she would have drawn him right then and there. She'd wanted to sketch him ever since their old video calls, back when she'd secretly loved him from afar. Now the urge burned 10 times stronger. He looked more handsome and charming than ever, making her ache to confess her feelings. She cursed herself for not offering to scrub his back or wash his hair earlier. Ding. Life choice 2. You have received your complimentary lavish reward dinner. Select one portion of your preferred cuisine from the options below. Supreme Buddha jumps over the wall extra large serving. Fried chicken family bucket combo. Rich seafood rice pot. Clear broth pork chop rice bowl. Tomahawk steak rice extra large portion for big eaters. These all look pretty fancy. Qin Shou finished showering in record time, and the reward dinner menu popped up the second he stepped out. Since the selection was randomized, the quality of the complimentary meals varied wildly. The 3 of them discussed their picks. Qin Shou chose the Supreme Buddha jumps over the wall, complete with rice and noodles. Lu Tao picked a 3-inch chocolate mousse cake. Yukino selected an oversized deluxe sushi platter. Every portion was far too big for one person to finish, leaving leftovers for late-night snacks or breakfast the next morning. Storage was no trouble. Qin Shou pulled out his new phone to begin upgrading the entire luxury suite, maxing out every available renovation option. Sleek, blue holographic geometric overlays swept across the room as upgrades activated. First, expand the living space by 10 square meters, costing 100,000 points. The suite's maximum interior size under Tier 1 train rules capped at 25 square meters. No further expansion was possible, and the train's exterior carriage dimensions remained unchanged. Only the room's inner space stretched larger. Additional upgrades: enlarged bathroom and bathtub, new vanity counter, full-size washing machine. Swap the 1.5-meter single bed for a 2M x 2.3M ultra-luxury king-size bed at a cost of 150,000 points, equivalent to a custom high-end mattress set worth 150,000 real-world currency. Expanded storage lockers and walk-in closet, oversized tea table, upgraded central air conditioning with air purification and ventilation modes, and dimmable multi-toned ceiling lights. Replace the stiff fold-out mats with 3 plush spherical bean bags, perfect for lounging or napping. Install a dedicated locked weapons cabinet, full-size refrigerator, and ceiling projector sync to the portable phones for media playback. Finish with reinforced tinted windows. No further wall decor or flooring upgrades were purchased. The suite already looked immaculate. Total points spent on renovations: 360,000. The king-size bed alone accounted for the bulk of the cost, plain to see at a glance. Though the space had expanded, after adding all the new furniture, it only felt marginally roomier. Once everything was set up, Qin Shou scratched his head and let out a faint laugh. He set down his phone to find Lu Tao had already placed the cake and sushi platter on the counter. Yukino the Yuki Onna fetched plates and chopsticks Qin Shou had bought. There was plenty of rice, along with noodles too. The portion of Buddha jumps over the wall was perfect for 3 people to eat their fill. Its flavor was rich, savory, and deeply aromatic, brimming with meaty umami without the slightest trace of greasiness, and the broth thick and velvety. The abalones and sea cucumbers inside were impressively large. Even Lu Tao, a wealthy heiress, had never tasted such lavish, exquisite cuisine before. Qin Shou and Yukino the Yuki Onna were no exceptions. So good. Qin Kun, you should have more of this sea cucumber. Here's Saya. Damn, women from this country really knew how to work a man over. After they finished eating, Qin Shou brewed a pot of tea from the tea leaves he'd bought to aid digestion. The atmosphere grew calm and warm. Outside the windows, the sky had turned pitch black. All they could faintly make out was that they were deep within a mountain forest. Used tableware vanished on its own, but the set they'd purchased had to be washed at the new sink beside the bathroom. Yukino the Yuki Onna volunteered to handle the cleanup, while Lu Tao pulled out her phone to play a comedy film, projecting it onto the wall to pass the time. Then, she curled up into Qin Shou's arms, only nestled against him, breathing in his scent and listening to his strong, steady heartbeat. Could she quiet her constant worries for her daughter? Unfortunately, the phone's chat channels only allowed adding friends face-to-face, and messages could only be exchanged with others aboard the same train. If not for that restriction, she would have already searched every corner for her girl. Later, when they headed to bathe, both Lu Tao and Yukino the Yuki Onna grew shy. Why hadn't Qin Shou swapped the transparent glass panels for something opaque when he upgraded the suite and expanded the bathroom? It was utterly baffling. Oh well, what's meant to happen will happen anyway. Lu Tao resigned herself to her fate, while Yukino the Yuki Onna subtly showed off her figure. Bathing side by side in the oversized tub gave them new topics to chat about, and their bond deepened considerably. While the two women soaked, Qin Shou glanced out at the beautiful scenery now and then, his main focus fixed on the public chat channel on his phone. Several passengers were already bidding for luxury suites, yet none were up for sale. Ordinary single cabins and larger single suites, however, were being listed for auction by their owners. Empty cabins and bunks were also being auctioned off by the system. Qin Shou took Lu Tao's cabin card and put it up for public bidding, selling it for 4,390 points. Since the auction was held directly in the main lobby instead of the trading house, he avoided the 5 commission fee. Once no higher bids came in, he stepped out of the suite to complete the transaction with a woman buyer. He firmly turned down her eager advances 3 times running. These people really have money to burn. It made sense, though. Anyone who could afford a phone and splurge on luxuries on the very first day would spare no points to live comfortably. Sharing cramped quarters with strangers was unbearable. Others simply craved extra living space and windows with views to ease their anxiety. Sure enough, word about high-value items has spread like wildfire. The biggest haul reported so far is 3 million points. Someone hauled a golden statue out of a villa. They'd originally planned to board a private plane to escape, never realizing it could be exchanged for points. Qin Shou skimmed the public chat a little longer before tuning out the chatter and diving into the mall. He'd been rushed earlier and hadn't gotten a proper look. Let's see how much firearms cost. Holy hell, weapons are insanely expensive. I guess it tracks. They cost a fortune in the real world too. The regular steel blades and high-grade steel knives he'd seen earlier were proof enough. Take the world-famous M4A1 rifle as an example for standard firearms. The entry-level semi-automatic model cost 2,500 points. The upgraded variant ran 4,000 points. Military grade set you back 6,000 points. And the top-tier build, built purely for maximum durability with premium metal with no regard for portability, hit a whopping 10,000 points. That was just the base gun, no attachments included. Accessories alone were pricey. A basic red dot sight cost 500 points, a laser pointer 300, a vertical foregrip 100, and extra magazines 80 points each. These were all cheap civilian entry-level parts, not the upgraded, military, or top-tier variants. Even standard 5.56mm rounds cost 3 points apiece. The pricing lined up almost perfectly with real-world currency values. Looking at it this way, the few survivors sitting on tens of thousands of points barely had enough for a basic loadout. No one knew how easy it would be to earn more points in the future, or how much they'd rack up. They either bet everything on a last-ditch splurge or scrimped and saved every point. This gear tier system is interesting. All equipment is graded by levels. Low-tier pistols start at level 1, while rifles begin at level 2. High-precision sniper rifles start at level 3 minimum. Helmets and body armor also start at level 1, though the lowest tier is just construction safety helmets and anti-stab leather vests. Only level 3 gear yields standard military ballistic helmets and armor. Wait a minute, weapons have no special stats, but gear above level 5, starting at level 6, can fuse seamlessly with your clothes, retain all defensive properties and normal weight, while eliminating the bulky, cumbersome bulk. It's exactly like game skins. You can hide your armor under your regular clothes, so it looks like you're wearing nothing. Qin Shou kept scrolling through the firearms and armor listings, picking up valuable new intel. The price tags were astronomical, all hovering around the million-point mark. These were also the highest-tier weapons and gear available for purchase aboard Tier 1 trains. No level 7 or above gear was stocked. He flipped open the Special Equipment tab. 1 cubic meter spatial ring. 5 million points Tier 1 train limited stock. 100 units 3 cubic meter spatial ring. 10 million points Tier 1 train limited stock. 30 units 5 cubic meter spatial ring. 30 million points Tier 1 train limited stock. 1 unit. Stock was limited, sold on a first-come first-served basis, and each person could only wear 1 spatial ring at a time. Free space meant flexible storage, not a fixed 1m times 1m times 1m cube. Any item whose total volume stayed under 1 cubic meter, even irregularly shaped objects, could be stored inside. Good grief, that's outrageous pricing. And the storage space isn't even that big. Still, flexible storage makes it incredibly versatile. That's all there is. Where are the genetic enhancement serums? What about items that unlock new passive abilities? He scrolled back and forth, finding nothing else. Spatial rings were the only unique specialty item for sale. Holding nearly 300 million points with nothing worthwhile to spend them on left, Qin Shou utterly frustrated. He felt like a warrior with a drawn sword, staring blankly out at empty horizons with nowhere to strike. Worse yet, the vehicle tab was completely empty. Despite its existence, no vehicles were listed for sale at all. Even the limited-time discount mall tab remained locked and unavailable. He couldn't guess why it was disabled. Was it a restriction of Tier 1 trains? Would the train level up on its own over time, or would they eventually transfer to higher-tier carriages later? Qin Shou sank into thought, then subconsciously reached for a warm glass of milk and took a sip. Slurp, slurp. The flavor was off, yet far more delicious than regular milk. A warm tingle spread through his body, instantly restoring his stamina and mental energy. The texture wasn't quite milk either, it was something else entirely. I'm sorry, Qin Kuan. This is healing milk. Please don't waste a single drop. Tomorrow, could we buy sealed glass bottles? We could store extra batches in the refrigerator to save up. Yukino the Yukiana had finished bathing at some point, dressed in loose pajamas, and brought over the extra healing milk she'd produced that day. Her maximum daily output was 3 500-milliliter cups, her absolute physical limit. She needed full rest before she could produce more. Oh, I see. Damn it. He'd missed watching her make the milk. Slurp. It tasted incredible. He could already tell he'd grow addicted to it. That's so enviable. Lu Tao sighed as she dried her hair beside them. She'd watched the whole exchange, too shy to step in while Qin Shou's attention was glued to his phone. Why were all their unique passive abilities like this, anyway? Hers, Yukino's, both were odd, yet undeniably powerful. She needed to work harder to unlock her own potential. Yukino the Yuki-onna moved naturally without a hint of ulterior motive, yet she effortlessly captivated him. Tonight, arrangements were set. Yukino would sleep against the wall, Lu Tao in the middle, and Qin Shou on the outer edge of the bed. They sliced a portion of the birthday cake for a late-night snack. Leftovers could wait until tomorrow. A slight loss of texture was no big deal. When bedtime rolled around, Yukino the Yuki-onna kept impeccable sleeping hours. Minutes earlier, she'd been fidgety, shy yet eager, but the second she laid down after cake, she fell fast asleep instantly. The chaos of the day likely wore her out completely. She's out like a light already. Lu Tao exclaimed in surprise, glancing at her phone. It wasn't even 11 o'clock yet. Weren't late nights just starting? She normally stayed up until 1 in the morning back home, time zone differences aside. There was no way she could be this exhausted. Huh? Yukino fell asleep this early? Qin Shou returned from picking up goods from the mall carriage. He stared at her slumbering form in mild surprise, then shrugged, remembering her usual schedule. This was actually staying up late for her. She normally passed out around 10, which was 9 o'clock by his old world's clock. He sat down to finish the leftover cake, then pulled out his new purchases to show Lu Tao. I picked up spatial rings for you too. Yours and Yukino's are 3 cubic meters each, mine's the 5 cubic meter model. They were limited stock, so I grabbed them right away. The rings were plain and unassuming, without flashy ornamentation, though they looked vastly different depending on who wore them. When Lu Tao slipped the silver band onto her finger, it instantly added a subtle, alluring charm. The simple ring glowed against her fair skin. Qin Shou slid it onto her ring finger himself. Her cheeks flushed bright red, her breath hitched, and her limbs turned weak and wobbly. It wasn't even a romantic gesture. She'd worn rings plenty before, yet her heart raced like a teenager experiencing first love. All set. It looks great on you. She'd lost all her jewelry when they'd been pulled into the white dimension. Phones, wallets, everything vanished. The ring filled the missing piece in her look. Qin Shou slipped on his black ring, feeling a faint surge of domineering confidence. The ice blue band was set aside for Yukino to claim when she woke up. Brother Qin, are these real firearms? Lu Tao's gaze drifted to a large backpack beside him. At Qin Shou's nod, she unzipped it, and her hands trembled the moment she laid eyes on the cold metal weapons inside. She'd grown up in a peaceful era. Even replica toy guns made her heart skip a beat, let alone live firearms. They're real, but these are upgraded variants. We'll get used to these first before splurging on top-tier primary weapons later. There was no point buying basic civilian models. Military-grade firearms swapped metal parts for composite engineering plastic to cut weight without sacrificing durability, perfect for long marches and combat. The upgraded models struck the ideal balance. All metal builds were heavier, but Qin Shou personally preferred their solid, satisfying heft over plastic-framed guns. Click, click. Qin Shou and Lu Tao clumsily handled the weighty firearms. He held his favorite, sleek 416 Hong Kong dollars, fully kitted out with a suppressor, holographic sight, infrared laser, and vertical foregrip, no extra modifications or attachments added. Lu Tao clutched a classic, stylish 1911 pistol. There were no extra attachments to install, so she pointed it around aimlessly, careful never to aim the barrel at anyone, even without a loaded magazine. Sister Lu, this pistol's just a backup. Later, you and Yukino will both use MP7 submachine guns. High rate of fire, low recoil, lightweight, switchable to single-shot mode, solid effective range, and stopping power, with plenty of room for attachments, perfect for the two of you. This M1014 shotgun's mine, and this Remington Model 700 sniper rifle is for me to learn how to operate. Shooting games make sniping look simple, but real-life marksmanship is far more than just lining up crosshairs and pulling the trigger. The Zeiss optical scope mounted on it needs constant calibration per the instruction manual. I also stocked matching ammo boxes and quick loaders for the magazines, so you won't hurt your fingers reloading. Qin Shou rambled on enthusiastically, his passion for firearms plain to see. The backpack also held several tactical combat knives, picked out to suit each person's fighting style. Thanks to his 5 cubic meter spatial ring, Qin Shou stocked extra gear for all kinds of scenarios. You really love firearms, Brother Qin. Every man's weak spot for guns, obviously. I can't argue with that. Lu Tao nodded. Her daughter was obsessed with shooting games lately, so she'd played a few rounds alongside her and grown somewhat accustomed to the aesthetic. She'd even filmed a commercial for Delta Force once, all thanks to that viral, "Give me 6 packs" meme. But where will we practice shooting? Lu Tao pointed out a critical flaw. There was no shooting range aboard the train, no open empty space to fire weapons safely. Easy fix. Tomorrow we can open the upgraded observation windows. I unlocked the adjustable panes earlier. They boost ventilation, and a weak barrier ward blocks excessive wind so the cabin won't get blown around. We can pick random targets outside to shoot at, no stationary bullseyes, just moving distant targets out in the wilderness. Qin Shou answered excitedly, but Lu Tao looked far from satisfied. She knew he was teasing her, so she set down the 1911 and reached out to grab hold of him instead. It's almost midnight. Shouldn't we get to our cultivation practice? Or do you want Yukino to wake up and see us? I don't mind, but I'd rather she didn't catch us right now. Don't worry, I'll keep my voice down so we don't wake her while she sleeps. Driven by a sharp sense of rivalry, Lu Tao resolved to take charge. Beyond Qin Shou's powerful succubus passive ability, her own sealed powers had finally broken free after over a decade of confinement. She'd been dying to resume cultivation. Cultivation let her watch clear progress bars tick upward, tangible stat boosts visible before her eyes. Who wouldn't love that? Even cultivation without visible progress was addictive, let alone this version. She planned to outmatch Qin Shou completely to lock him firmly to her side. But Qin Shou had trained relentlessly to boost his stamina and endurance since rebirth, pairing rigorous workouts with medicinal nutrient meals. Young, vigorous, and full of vitality, he could keep up their cultivation practice for an entire hour without tiring. Her powers may have been released after years of sealing, but he'd endured his own long suppression too. Later, Qin Shou pushed the tiger pattern blanket aside and stood to pour a cup of tea. He only wished he had a cigar to smoke. It might have helped him ponder the mysteries of the universe and uncover some hidden truths. A soft gaze locked onto him. Yukino the Yukiana had woken up without a sound. You insatiable tiger, you bastard. You passed out dead asleep and took the easy way out. What about me? Qin Shou held his water cup, thoroughly flustered. He and Yukino shared an incredibly close bond. He'd once considered taking things further with her. But he was still young, curious to experience all the forest life had to offer, so he'd always held back. Such was the code of a self-aware playboy. I don't mind, Qin Kun. I already heard everything from Sister Lu about the two of you. I see her as my elder sister, so I harbor no resentment at all. Besides, you were only practicing to grow stronger, sob. Her voice cracked into quiet, heartbroken sobs. In her mind, Qin Shou must have suffered terrible unfair treatment. The succubus passive resided on Lu Tao, not him. She was convinced Lu Tao had coerced him, grabbing him by force to drag him into cultivation. Ahem, it's all right, Yukino. I'm truly fine, I promise. Qin Shou hurried to soothe Yukino Yukiana, and even the way they addressed each other shifted drastically. They'd always called each other by their online handles before. Even after meeting face-to-face, she'd still used his full name until recently. Only she had always spoken to him with gentle, honorific terms brimming with affection. It wasn't just fondness, she admired him deeply, looked up to him like an idol. Come to think of it, everything Yukino Yukiana had achieved today was all thanks to him. He'd never realized what an incredible, precious girl she was. Whatever task he set for her, she'd throw her whole heart into it, and pull it off flawlessly every single time. He'd told this underachieving high school art student to take the Tokyo University entrance exam, and a single year later, she'd passed with flying colors. She'd really done it. Back then, Qin Shou had just started junior high, only recently publishing 2 novels online to earn a little pocket change. Yukino, meanwhile, had just graduated high school, failed her art university admissions, and lost all sense of direction for her future. Worse still, her parents had died in a car accident not long prior. Their compensation payout was tied up in legal proceedings and wouldn't clear for another year or more. She'd been utterly adrift in despair. Qin Shou had given her ample funds to focus on painting, comforted her, and cheered her on relentlessly. Later, he'd encouraged and supported her to retake the university exams. Less than a year into her repeat studies, she'd sent him a photo of her official acceptance letter. After that, she became even more extraordinary. She was like a maiden straight out of a 2D anime, brought to life in the real world. But Qin Shou still had school to attend, spent every spare moment writing novels to earn money, hit the gym daily, and dabbled in the entertainment industry to collect celebrity acquaintances. Naturally, they couldn't meet in person often, stuck in a cross-border online romance that hadn't even crossed the line into a formal confession. Yukino, this is for you. It's a MMPH. In his rush, Qin Shou meant to hand over his spatial ring. Snap. Before he could finish his sentence, Yukino Yukiana lifted her left hand and clamped it firmly over his mouth, sealing his words shut by physical force. Then, trembling with excitement, she stretched out her right hand and brushed her fingertips lightly, cautiously against the ice-blue ring resting in his palm. She didn't lift it up. Instead, she suddenly snapped her gaze up to Qin Shou, eyes pleading. "Qin Kuan, could you put it on for me? Please." Yukino Yukiana had noticed the identical ring on Lu Tao's finger ages ago, worn right on her ring finger. Lu Tao hadn't had it before. Something must have happened between them, but she couldn't bear to dwell on the thought. "And now, please." Her voice cracked, eyes glistening with helpless, tearful longing. Qin Shou froze, completely unable to resist her plea. He quickly took her hand, ready to slide the ring into place. A silly, tender sight unfolded. Yukino curled all her other fingers inward, fumbling clumsily to hold out her pale pink ring finger alone, yanking her pinky far out of the way. Her whole hand shook nonstop with nerves. "Yukino, thank you for loving me." Qin Shou let out a soft sigh, his tone solemn and tender as he gently unfurled her curled fingers. Just as she flinched, trying to pull her hand back, he slipped the ice-blue spatial ring onto her ring finger. Qin Kuan, sobs spilled out of her uncontrollably. The boy she'd secretly loved online for nearly 6 years, now the man standing before her, had just placed what felt like a wedding band on her hand. She was overjoyed beyond words. Yet one regret lingered heavy in her heart. She'd planned to fly overseas to visit Qin Shou for the Lunar New Year during his winter break, and had prepared an elaborate gift box just for him. Now she'd never get to hand it over. The box had been wrapped inside a Delta brand secure vault case, all because Qin Shou had been obsessed with the brand once. Inside lay every carefully curated present she'd spent ages picking out. "Yukino, actually." Qin Shou meant to explain everything, but he never got the chance. Her emotions had fully overwhelmed him. "Qin Kuan, you once said milk is nutritious and great for your body. Here, drink this." "Qin Kuan, you joked once that you loved tigers, so I've raised one all this time. Fed it well till it's plump and perfect. It's everything you'd hope for, truly." "Qin Kuan, I've studied endless textbooks, learned fitness routines, and yoga. I can take care of you in so many ways. You're sure to be pleased." "Don't say another word, please, just stop." Qin Shou mentally slapped himself hard. This pure, devoted girl, not even a deranged Yandere with an obsessive love complex, had fallen for him. He must have saved that girl hit by a delivery truck in his past life to earn such good fortune. It was a truck loaded with rice that had killed him in his previous life, after all. It hadn't been on a rural highway or inside his home. Back then, he'd worked as a photographer and gotten fired after punching his boss in a fit of rage. All because his boss had commissioned boudoir shots of his own wife. What else was a photography major supposed to do for work? After being let go, he decided to take a solo trip to Sakura country to unwind. Single for years, he'd wondered what it was like for high school girls struggling with extreme poverty, unable to even afford basic rice, and hoped he could look out for them. But after a few days traveling abroad, on his flight home, he'd spotted a domestic rice truck careening wildly down the road. On a reckless impulse, he caught sight of a young girl frozen motionless in its path. Channeling every light-footed martial arts trick he'd read about, he lunged forward and tackled her out of harm's way. And that was how he'd woken up reborn into this life. Wait a minute. He'd never pieced it together before, his past life memories fuzzy and fragmented. But now it hit him. The girl he'd saved all those years ago looked eerily identical to Yukino Yukiana curled up asleep in his arms. No way. Could fate really be this kind to him? His luck had always been abysmal. He'd never won a lottery ticket, and every gacha pull in mobile games left him hitting the hard pity guarantee every single time. Had his lifelong bad luck finally reversed for the better? Darling, aren't you going to sleep? You must be exhausted." Yukino Yukiana stirred, roused by his unblinking stare, and tilted her head up to gaze at him sleepily. "I only napped a little while ago, but I dreamed about my past life." "Really? You can tell me about it. I'll force myself to stay awake to listen." "Of course. It's a simple story. Think of it as a bedtime tale." Dar what? What did she just call him? Darling? Had something happened while she slept last night? Only 6 hours had passed at most. How had everything shifted so drastically overnight? Lu Tao stood frozen in disbelief, fresh from washing up and about to grab a deluxe sushi platter for breakfast. She'd wandered over intending to wake Qin Shou for food, only to find Yukino Yukiana, dead tired and barely awake, leaping up to block her path, begging her not to disturb her darling's rest. Where had this darling nonsense even come from? Could she not keep her overwhelming affection to herself? Lu Tao's heart twisted with raw jealousy at the sight of them huddled under one blanket. A short while later, "All these nutrient-rich sushi are for my darling." It's a shame there's no microwave. Heating these would bring out far better flavor and texture. I'll tweak these dipping sauces to taste. My darling can't handle overly spicy wasabi, after all. Yukino Yukiana sorted all the raw fish sushi to one side, carefully arranging every cooked item into a separate serving bowl. She knew Chinsho hated raw seafood. The leftover raw sushi she pushed toward Lu Tao instead. The ingredients were top tier, perfectly fresh with a delicate, rich flavor, so there was no risk of spoilage. Lu Tao's mouth twitched awkwardly. For the record, she couldn't stand raw fish either. Still, she forced herself to eat a portion. There wasn't enough food to waste. It tasted decent, even if she'd never grow used to raw seafood. Spill it. I want every single detail. Please don't blame my darling, Sister Lu. This is all my fault. No manipulative subtlety, no hidden scheming. Her willingness to take all blame was utterly genuine, pouring straight from her heart. Lu Tao, with far more life experience, could tell instantly. This woman was utterly beyond ordinary logic. No, you've misunderstood. Sometime later, Lu Tao's mouth still twitched nonstop. She'd promised herself she'd hold back her irritation, and she'd barely managed a little restraint, yet she'd still lost the silent standoff first. You're my little sister from now on. Drop this Sister Lu, it feels too distant. Just call me sister, or Lu Jia if you prefer. Understood, Oni Ai-chan. Whoa, no, don't call me that. Just plain sister is fine, seriously. Lu Tao's head throbbed at the sudden, overly affectionate honorific. Good grief. All right, sister. Lu Tao stared blankly when Yukino switched to broken Chinese mid-sentence. Had she misheard her earlier instruction? No need to switch to Chinese. Speak your native tongue. There's an automatic translation system. I'll understand every word. At last, Yukino addressed her simply as sister, and Lu Tao breathed a massive sigh of relief. Close to noon, Chinsho stirred awake slowly. He could have woken hours earlier, but he'd been dragged out of sleep halfway through the night to meditate and cultivate his powers for a full hour. Young and vigorous as he was, he needed the extra rest. No alarms, no one rousing him. So he'd slept in naturally, clocking barely 5 full hours of rest. A midday nap later would be well-deserved if he grew drowsy again. I take it you two know everything now. One glance at their relaxed, comfortable dynamic told Chinsho all he needed to know. He felt a huge weight lift off his chest seeing they'd gotten along so well. After washing up and eating his late breakfast, Chinsho lit up with excitement and set out to teach them firearms handling. He pushed the window open, soft mountain wind drifting inside. Compared to the recycled air pumped through the ceiling AC vents, the crisp natural breeze from the deep forest felt infinitely cleaner and fresher. Watch this. This is an MP7. See this holographic gun sight here. This is a 1911 pistol, and here's how you. Chinsho walked them through every step with endless patience. He was far from a professional marksman, but he held solid basic firearms knowledge. Most came from shooting video games, supplemented by real-world educational videos he'd binged online. He took turns testing each weapon himself. The matching 1911 pistols, for 116 Hong Kong dollars assault rifle, M1014 shotgun, Remington M700 sniper rifle. He fired round after round with every model. Shooting was thrilling, pure exhilaration. Recoil packed a brutal punch, but his physique and strength easily absorbed the kickback. Not to mention his base stats would only keep climbing higher over time. His only lingering worry was Yukino Yukiana's low power stats. The onboard shop sold no stat-boosting potions, pills, or elixirs. He wondered if the Tier 2 train would stock such items later down the line. They practiced shooting straight through midday, burning through hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Accuracy didn't matter so much right now. Their main goal was growing comfortable handling firearms. After target practice, they moved on to foundational drills, magazine reloading, quick ammo swaps, repetitive muscle memory movements critical to avoiding panicked fumbles during actual combat. I'm heading out to stock up on standard ammo, plus grab lunch from the dining car. Any requests? He skipped ordering via his handheld device and planned to pick food up in person. The lunch rush had long passed by now, so there'd be no lines or hurried staff rushing him along. Roast duck rice for me, any side dishes are fine. Tomato egg soup or black chicken herbal soup if they've got stewed tonics available. Lu Tao stretched her aching arms as she replied. Yukino Yukiana ordered the exact same meal out of pure curiosity. She'd never tasted Chinese roast duck before. She asked for an extra bowl of rice too. Before boarding this train, rice shortages had plagued her home country. Prices had skyrocketed, strict purchase limits in place, and even with ample money, she'd hesitated to buy. Got it. Chinsho nodded and left their private compartment. The train corridors were empty as he walked, But the dining car carriage was packed with passengers eating. Many had trekked over from far forward compartments. Seating space was limited, and not every passenger could afford to dine privately in their own room. Yet only one full day into their journey, Qinshu watched distinct cliques already forming across the dining area. Some passengers curried favor with stronger survivors. Others huddled to negotiate cooperation pacts. A handful grumbled nonstop, kicking themselves for skipping out on looting high-value supplies earlier. Human society always devolved this way in crisis. Groups banding together for mutual survival, petty rivalries simmering beneath the surface. Further down, the market carriage held passengers grabbing instant noodles and packaged bread. Free hot and cold drinking water was provided. Passengers only needed to bring their own cups or water containers. It was clear these survivors had barely any accumulated points, unable to afford a hot meal in the dining car. Even the cheapest sit-down dishes cost more than cheap packaged food. He purchased bulk ammo, stuffing the heavy rounds into his backpack. He kept his spatial ring hidden out of sight, staying low profile. Shockingly, the onboard shop stocked every product available on Earth. No human chefs manned the dining counters. Food materialized out of thin air behind a service window when orders were placed. Prices varied wildly. The cheapest steamed buns and mantou were sold in small bamboo steamers only, no single-unit purchases allowed. A tiny steamer holding 3 plain mantou cost 10 points. Premium mantou with richer flavor ran 30 points for the same quantity. Plain noodle soup started at 10 points, no extra toppings included. It explained perfectly why so many survivors relied on cheap instant noodles instead. Pricey, but not entirely unreasonable. Basic roast duck rice starts at 20 points, premium cuts at 50. Herbal tonic soups cost a minimum 15, they've got sauce duck too. After browsing the menu for a while, Qinshu lifted a large food tray piled with meals and headed back to his compartment. All tableware vanished automatically once everyone finished eating. That night, the dining carriage turned into a chaotic recruitment ground. Some survivors openly offered large point sums to court companions. Although the shops sold lifelike human dolls, they started at 50,000 points and skyrocketed to millions for top-tier models. Lifeless synthetic figures weren't worth such a steep cost, so many survivors opted to seek living partners instead. Static plastic toys held zero appeal by comparison. A few passengers even put their time and labor up for public sale. Naturally, multiple women approached Qinshu with propositions. Some offered to cover all his expenses in exchange for companionship. Others tried to buy his exclusive time outright. Most were unattractive with unreasonable demands, though one woman with heavily edited influencer facial features caught his eye among the crowd. To his horror, several men also hit on him. "Back off, stay far away." Arguments broke out left and right, some passengers spouting toxic online rhetoric and moral grandstanding to pressure others. If the train's anti-combat ban hadn't prohibited physical fights, countless brawls would have erupted already. This was the end of the world. No one had patience for pointless moral policing. Once he returned to their room, Qinshu recounted the bizarre scene. Lu Tao and Yukino Yukiana both shuddered with relief. Thankfully, Qinshu handled all errands outside their compartment. If either of them stepped out alone, they'd be hounded relentlessly by strangers. "Are we practicing firearms again tonight?" "Just reloading drills, no live shooting. It's too dark outside to aim properly. We'll put on a movie and practice magazine swaps and ammo loading at the same time. Multitasking builds muscle memory critical for combat." Both women grasped his reasoning instantly. They got to work once the film started playing. When bath time rolled around, they were still a little shy, yet their atmosphere felt warm and harmonious. They splashed water playfully together in the oversized tub. By bedtime, Qinshu looked forward to curling up with both women on either side of him. As the two hesitated, debating who would sleep closest to him or if they'd all share the bed together, "Ding, good evening, all surviving passengers. The train will soon arrive at our next station, the Lost City. Threat level, 3 stars. Estimated time until arrival, 20 hours. Note: this destination is a city overrun by a zombie outbreak. The vast majority of humanity has been infected and turned into the undead. The remaining uninfected humans scrape by to survive in the cracks of the wasteland. You will take on the role of survivors struggling to endure within this apocalyptic city. Prepare sufficient combat arms and daily supplies. Hold out for 7 days until rescue arrives. Ding Combat Prep Phase 1. You are about to face genuine doomsday survival, plunging you into extreme peril. Most of you grew up in peaceful eras. Even after adapting to the beginner zone, few will live through this true apocalypse. To boost your survival odds, select one option from the following 5. Time-limited full standard U.S. Police Tactical Gear Set. Unlock limited time discount mall. 50 permanent all-stat boost time limited. Free 1-week supply of randomized premium meal boxes. Time limited mastery level combat arts experience. All-time limited buffs vanish automatically upon mission success or failure. The warm, relaxed atmosphere shattered instantly. Sister Doe's cold AI voice jolted every survivor awake, whether they'd been fast asleep or drifting off to dreamland. The true trial had arrived. Contrary to most people's guesses, the previous difficulty tier had been 1 star, yet the next jumped straight to 3 star. Judging by the background of their destination, forget venturing out to scavenge high-value supplies. It was questionable whether they could even find a safe spot to survive 7 days. Thankfully, the supposedly merciless AI must have realized how brutal the challenge was, granting everyone the combat prep selection to raise their chances. What options did you two get? Qin Shou shot upright as if roused from a deathly fever and turned to ask the 2 women beside him. Lu Tao had just stealthily pulled black silk stockings from the backpack by her bed and slipped them on. Hold on, let me check. Darling, my 5 picks are. The 2 women's options were a mixed bag, mostly mediocre. It seemed they'd burned through all their luck-picking traits back at Fate Critical Point 1. Even their best choices paled in comparison to Qin Shou's 5 elite selections. His boundless good fortune trait was clearly working overtime again, gifting him top-tier options. Nearly all other survivors only received run-of-the-mill picks. Merely a tiny handful scored 1 halfway decent buff. Limited time discount mall. I saw this tab lock shut back in the main market car. So it only unlocks at a moment like this. And it seems to be an extremely rare spawn. Qin Shou pulled out his phone and opened the train's global public chat channel. Wails and complaints flooded the screen. Just as he suspected, most players' options were utterly unremarkable. Only a couple people posted screenshots showing 1 decent buff matching a single one of his choices. No one else had unlocked the limited time discount mall so far. The chat was swamped with bitter complaints. Free 3 daily meals, basic baseball bats, machetes. How were those supposed to improve survival chances? Anyone who could afford a 10,000-point smartphone obviously already owned those trivial items. The slightly better picks included a temporary 25 all-stat boost, time-limited civilian rifles with 90 rounds ammo, and entry-level professional combat skills. Only 2 other survivors had posted screenshots of elite-tier rewards comparable to Qin Shou's lineup, purely to show off. Lu Tao, pick your amateur hunter survival skill set as your option. Yukino, choose the temporary 25 all-stat boost. Neither woman had any superior alternatives left. These were the best of a bad bunch. We have spatial rings to stockpile mountains of daily supplies, not to mention firearms and ample ammo. We've nothing to fear. As for me, I'll test what this limited-time discount mall has to offer. Qin Shou selected option 2 to unlock the discount mall. Opening his phone, he found the final tab of the store now accessible. The inventory was sparse, every item clearly marked level 1 train exclusive, with randomized stock per individual. Even if other survivors unlocked the mall, their discounted goods would differ entirely. Once more, boundless good fortune tipped the odds wildly in his favor. 1 random fate trait selection, pick 1 out of 5, original price, 1 billion points discounted, 100 million points. Level 1 superpower, electromagnetism manipulation, original price, 500 million points discounted, 100 million points. Grandmaster combat killing arts experience, original price, 300 million points discounted, 120 million points. Tier 4 cold weapon, titanium alloy broadsword, original price, 50,000 points discounted, 10,000 points. Night vision goggles, original price, 1 million points discounted, 850,000 points. Level 1 superpower, hydrokinesis, full price, 500 million points. Parkour grandmaster skill experience, full price, 800 million points. Items vary drastically in tier and value, with discount margins shrinking further down the list. The first 5 carried steep markdowns, while the subsequent 5 rare specialty items sold only at full original price. Truly worthy of its name as a limited discount mall, small inventory, yet the frontline and backstock items were game-changing. What a shame. Even with nearly 300 million points on hand, he couldn't afford to buy everything here. If not for boundless good fortune activating, he would never have drawn such high-grade purchasable items to begin with. Not to mention the sheer volume of points required to grab even a few of them. For anyone else, stumbling across this shop without enough currency would be nothing but heartbreak. The first item is non-negotiable. Fate trait draws are unmatched in value. Anyone with half a brain knows how powerful they are. Even if the 5 randomized traits are hit or miss, I've got boundless good fortune skewing luck my way. A small roll wasn't worth celebrating. You haven't hit the jackpot until you draw top-tier buffs. Without hesitation, he purchased one random fate trait selection pick 1 out of 5 immediately, followed by level 1 superpower, electromagnetism manipulation. After deducting 200 million total points, alongside previous expenditures, 3 spatial rings costing 50 million, suite upgrades, firearms purchases, and other miscellaneous gear, he retained just over 46.5 million remaining points. That massive pool of points vanished shockingly fast once he started splurging. I'll grab the other 2 discounted items too. Shame I can't afford the Grandmaster Killing Arts, and the 5 full-price backstock goods are merely for viewing. After purchasing the Tier 4 titanium alloy broadsword and night vision goggles, Qinshu closed the discount mall interface. Seconds later, the newly bought materialized out of thin air before him. First, a standard military titanium alloy straight broadsword, 1 meter long, 3 fingers wide, a sleek single-edged longsword design. Cold, weighty, razor sharp enough to slice through thin steel rebar as thick as chopsticks with a single blow. Its original price of 50,000 points made sense. Even custom forging a comparable blade in the real world would cost a fortune. Next, the night vision goggles, styled like fashionable regular eyewear. Qinshu slipped them on, initially seeing no visual difference. His vision remained normal indoors. But when he turned toward the dark nightscape outside the window, the world shifted to monochrome grayscale. He could clearly distinguish tree outlines up to 50 meters away, with slight blurring at the 100-meter mark. Worth every original million points. Cutting-edge high-tech gear for sure. He removed the goggles and stowed them alongside the broadsword inside a spatial ring. Then he turned his gaze to a parchment scroll and a vial of genetic serum floating mid-air. Lu Tao and Yukino watched cautiously from a distance, afraid to step too close or accidentally trigger either item's activation. Here we go. Activate Boundless Good Fortune trait. Ding. You have activated the Fate trait scroll to draw 1 trait from 5 randomized options. Tiger Strength Fists, God Tier Driving Proficiency, Cult Master of Dual Cultivation Arts, Trait Sharing, Master Combatant. That familiar feeling again. All 4 character descriptors, 0 explanatory text, left to guess from literal wording and hidden context alike. Qinshu watched the parchment dissolve into his body as the AI's 5 random options populated his mind. Boundless Good Fortune had undoubtedly tilted the draw in his favor once more. For a split second, he considered picking Cult Master of Dual Cultivation Arts, purely out of morbid curiosity to test what that role entailed. Yet trait sharing forced him to discard the thought instantly. This buff opened a path to boost Yukino's stats permanently. Should he gamble on it? He would. Qinshu was no indecisive fool. Without detailed stat breakdowns, literal wording would guide his choice. I pick number 4. Ding. Selection confirmed. You now bear the trait sharing buff. Greedy as ever, craving more power yet determined to protect those around you. Sister Doe's AI cracked another sarcastic jab, a stark contrast to its previously icy monotone. Qinshu scratched his head with a grin, quickly grasping the buff's functionality. With trait sharing active, he could designate one person to copy a single trait of theirs into a shared linked state, accessible to the whole group. For example, he could copy Lu Tao's daily growth trait and share its effects with both himself and Yukino. Likewise, he could replicate either Yukino's Master Key or Healing Milk trait for himself and Lu Tao. Only 1 trait per person could be copied at a time. A 7-day cooldown applied before copying a new trait from another survivor. Switching to a different trait from the same individual required a full month cooldown, preventing exploitative constant buff swapping. Additionally, trait sharing occupied his sole shared buff slot, meaning he could not distribute separate copied traits to each woman simultaneously. Lu Jia, link with me first. The process was simple: hold hands, and confirm the binding mentally upon the AI's prompt. Lu Tao didn't hesitate and agreed the instant the notification echoed in her thoughts. Right after, Qinshu grabbed Yukino's hand and activated the shared link for the daily growth trait. We need to run a test to confirm how this works. Lu Jia, you and I already completed our daily cultivation cap earlier today, so rest aside for now. Yukino, even though you trained with me earlier, you lacked the trait amplification back then, so? Anticipation swelled inside Qinshu. He and Lu Tao had hit their standard daily stat gain limit long ago. But what about Yukino? And himself? Understood, darling. I'll train hard alongside you. +1 stat point, +1 stat point, +1 stat point, +1 stat point. Something's different. Lu Jia, come train with me right away. Cultivation speed spiked drastically, and Chinsho burst into loud, unrestrained laughter, grinning wildly like Sasuke mid-battle. A tangible shift had taken place, undeniably powerful. His individual stat cap had jumped from 5 random points to 15 total. 5 each for himself, Lu Tao, and Yukino combined. Every additional ally linked to him would add another 5 stat points to his daily pool. Ecstasy flooded his veins. Nothing beat seeing concrete, measurable power growth unfold before his eyes. There was a catch, however. He could only redistribute a maximum of 5 pooled stat points between the 2 women. Either allocate all 5 to one person, or split them, 3 to one, 2 to the other. Their base daily 5 stat points remained fixed, their extra gains determined entirely by Chinsho's distribution. That night, Yukino received an additional 3 bonus points, netting 8 total random stat upgrades. Lu Tao joined cultivation late, and earned an extra 2 bonus stat points. Darling, quit laughing, the training session isn't finished yet. If you interrupt it like that, Sister Lu might suffer chi deviation. Noon the next day, Chinsho pushed the soft, plush tiger-shaped cushion off his torso and rose lazily, feeling utterly refreshed. He'd spent the entire night cultivating non-stop, so naturally he'd slept in late, waking fully naturally without an alarm. Lu Tao and Yukino had done the same. He headed to the dining car to buy a hearty lunch spread, and after eating his fill, the 2 women continued firearms practice. Chinsho meanwhile began training to wield and control his titanium alloy broadsword. He'd already consumed the genetic serum for level 1 electromagnetism manipulation. The awakening process was painless, merely a brief surge of warmth across his body, which faded after soaking in a cold bathtub. By channeling his mental will as a catalyst, he activated and guided electromagnetic force to perform vector displacement on all macroscopic conductive metals. The power drew no separate supernatural energy reserve. It drained solely his physical stamina and mental focus. The 2-kilogram titanium broadsword lifted off the floor and flew straight into his palm at the same speed as reaching out to grab it normally. Steady and fluid with 0 lag. Not bad. Level 1 potency exceeds my expectations, though fine-tuned precision is still out of reach. Can't complain, it's only tier 1. Time to run more tests. Now wielding genuine superpowers, Chinsho refused to recklessly spam his ability without analysis. Electromagnetism manipulation demanded structured stage testing, recorded observations, and tactical brainstorming. First test, maximum effective range. After running trials inside the suite, he moved out to the carriage aisle to verify limits. Result, a circular radius of roughly 20 meters total, 10 meters forward, back, left, and right. At peak output, he could hurl the broadsword forward at full speed then yank it back with a mental command. The blade snapping to his grip as if tethered by an invisible cord. Since control relied purely on concentration, a handful of practice runs let him reliably recall the sword. Each emergency full power recall expended stamina and mental energy equivalent to sprinting 50 meters at top speed. Controlling multiple metal objects simultaneously exponentially raised fatigue costs, save for tiny items like razor blades or nails. If manipulated objects exceeded a critical velocity threshold, partial or complete loss of control occurred. Ooh, worn out, time to rest. Darling, let me give you a massage. No need, I'll just drink some water. Keep practicing your shooting. Stage 1 testing wrapped up, leaving him significantly drained physically and mentally. After a short reprieve, he moved on to Stage 2 trials. He had Lu Tao slash an empty space beside him with her military combat dagger. Chinsho barely flicked his wrist outward, and the dagger ripped free from her grasp, flying off to the side. He could even achieve the same effect without hand gestures, merely fixing his gaze on the blade like a tangible burst of Conqueror's Haki. Though the repulsion speed and force diminished slightly without physical gesturing. Channeling power through hand motions as a focal point and guide noticeably conserved stamina. Additional trials tested stainless steel soup spoons, which required far more mental exertion to manipulate than the broadsword. Standard copper bullet casings and shotgun shot pellets each responded uniquely to his power. Extended manipulation also caused minor heat buildup across all controlled metals. Conclusion, manipulation speed, brute force, and precision differ drastically based on metal composition. Static and moving metal objects also yield distinct controlled difficulty curves. Fast-moving targets are exceptionally hard to guide accurately. Deflecting incoming blades alone, however, is far simpler than steady levitation or gentle lowering into my grasp. After hours of exhaustive testing, Chinsho collapsed onto the wooden floor, cementing every observation firmly in his memory. Testing concluded for the moment, but he planned far more experiments during future downtime. You've worked so hard, darling. Yukino handed him a cup of warm tea alongside snacks to replenish his energy. Thanks. It's nearly 4 o'clock now. I need to rush to purchase survival supplies immediately. He thanked her, grabbed a quick bite, then hurried to the supply car. He'd pre-selected goods via his phone over lunch. Only final checkout and pickup remained. Everything stocked targeted the upcoming survival challenge. Drinking water, compressed ration biscuits, flashlights, camping lanterns, tents, sleeping bags, and more. Mass ammunition stockpiles, standard rounds, armor-piercing rounds, tracer rounds, tens of thousands of bullets total. 100 fragmentation grenades, explosive blast grenades, incendiary grenades, smoke grenades, flashbang stun grenades each. Magazine clips, night vision optics, binoculars, tactical backpacks, military special ops combat uniforms, and more. Most critical of all, Tier 6 combat helmets and Tier 6 body armor. 1,000,000 points per set? Even when playing Delta Force, Hawk Ops, he'd never splurged to buy top-tier gear for confidential missions. So if Chinsho skips out on purchasing supplies here, he's basically gambling with his life. With that in mind, he bought nearly every purchasable item available. Firearms were unnecessary to restock for now. His current arsenal was sufficient. Still, Chinsho played it safe and picked up over a dozen extra RPG rounds just to calm his nerves. Classic firepower deficiency syndrome. When he had no points, he could hold back. But with a surplus of points burning a hole in his pocket, he couldn't resist stocking up as much as possible. Afterward, Chinsho headed to the market carriage alone to collect his purchases, then moved on to the dining car to retrieve more goods. He stuffed everything wholesale into his 5 cubic meter storage ring. Just the food alone was enough to feed 3 people for an entire month. Luckily, the afternoon hours were quiet, so he gathered all the supplies without drawing any attention. The other survivors who planned ahead had finished their shopping the previous night and that morning. What's more, these rear carriages were all luxury single cabins, naturally sparsely populated. The only crowds came from survivors who'd fled forward carriages with no vacant bunks. By now, most people had retreated to their private cabins to rest. The only lively spot was the global cabin chat channel. Everything was fully prepped. All they had to do was wait for dinner, then the train would arrive at its second destination. Split all these supplies between yourselves, then store them in your storage rings. I'm going to take an afternoon nap. Wake me up when dinner time rolls around. Chinsho yawned widely. Testing his electromagnetic force earlier had drained him heavily, and he desperately needed rest. Lu Tao and Yukino the Snow Maiden raised no objections. They sorted all the goods separately, loaded different caliber ammo into magazines following Chinsho's written notes, and stuck labeled sticky tabs on each mag for easy identification. Last of all, Yukino the Snow Maiden fetched over a dozen glass bottles and began brewing healing milk, filling 3 empty bottles with the fresh batch for today's use. Yesterday's stock had long since been finished off. Post-dinner night. Ding. Destination, Fallen City, arrival confirmed. All surviving passengers, please select your survival shelter random options assigned to each individual. You may disembark freely within 10 minutes after confirming your choice. An automatic teleportation will deliver you to your location. Note, this survival challenge is mandatory. If you are unsatisfied with your shelter pick or have formed an alliance with other survivors, you may elect one member as team leader to march at the front, with teammates following closely behind. Remember, your primary objective is to survive for 7 full days until rescue arrives and extraction commences. Combat and scavenging take secondary priority. After dinner, they each showered, and Chinsho topped off his storage ring with fresh hot water. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. He still had plenty of unused space in the ring. He traded his loose casual clothes for military tactical combat fatigues, then donned a Tier 6 ballistic helmet and Tier 6 bulletproof vest worth over 1,000,000 points combined. Once fully geared up, the 3 of them underwent a complete transformation. Every move they made carried zero trace of laxity, replaced by surging ironclad battle intent and sharp, coiled killing aura ready to strike at any moment. Or at least, that was the aura the gear lent them. It was purely a stat buff from the tactical equipment. But they looked absolutely formidable, stunningly so. Lu Tao and Yukino the Snow Maiden couldn't help staring at Chinsho. Fortunately, the unique passive properties of Tier 6 armor were integrated into the fabric itself. So the gear retained a sleek profile without bulky protrusions and did not restrict bodily movement. The weight, however, was very much present, forcing Lu Tao and Yukino to hunch their shoulders slightly under the load. The helmet's weight was manageable, only leaving their necks achy after prolonged wear. The bulletproof vest was another story entirely. Even the thinnest, cheapest model among all Tier 6 vests weighed over 14 pounds. Ding! Zombie outbreak has fully engulfed Fallen City. Which shelter will you choose to survive the next 7 days? Convenience store, prison facility, adult entertainment shop, luxury penthouse, kindergarten. The train had come to a steady halt outside Fallen City. Glancing out the windows, they saw a landscape of city-wide ruins left by mass rioting, with hordes of zombies shuffling through every street. Sister Doe's AI voice echoed in every survivor's mind as scheduled, presenting each person with their unique shelter selection prompts. No two survivors received identical options. For Lu Tao, her picks were rental apartment, internet cafe, fruit stall, security guard booth, hardware store. Yukino the Snow Maiden's choices included apartment unit, general goods shop, milk tea parlor, school teaching building, private garage. It was clear there was an enormous pool of potential shelter locations. Nearly every inhabitable structure across Fallen City was available as an option. None of the choices came with detailed descriptions. They had only their literal names to judge by. For example, picking the convenience store. Even if looted dry in the early hours of the zombie outbreak, it might still hold leftover supplies. It could be completely ransacked or untouched, and might even feature a second-floor living quarters. Choosing a hardware store meant the chance to craft makeshift melee weapons from piping, like homemade holy swords or warhammers. A private garage might offer maximum safety, yet suffer from severe supply shortages. A private garage could belong to a villa, forcing survivors to hole up there while zombies roamed the streets outside. Or it could be a private bay inside an apartment complex's underground parking lot. Every scenario was equally plausible. They needed to weigh comfort, safety, resource availability, and most crucially, the final extraction phase. No one knew where the extraction zone was, or how rescue would reach them. What should we pick? After sharing their separate lists of options, Lu Tao turned to Qin Shou. Deep down, all three already knew the optimal answer. Without a doubt, Qin Shou's luxury penthouse was the best choice. His fortune's blessing perk had struck again. A high-rise luxury mansion like this would let them weather 7 days safely if no major threats emerged, while leaving other floors open for scavenging runs. These were upscale residences for the wealthy, guaranteed to hold high-value loot of all kinds. To make it even better, Yukino the Snow Maiden possessed the Master Key perk, making lockpicking trivial. Hee, I can see it on all your faces. We'll go with the luxury penthouse. Qin Shou smiled and confirmed his selection without hesitation. Whatever dangers or challenges awaited, it was the most logical option on paper. Understood, we'll follow your lead. Lu Tao nodded firmly, and Yukino echoed her agreement. Qin Shou slid open their cabin door, catching sight of their neighboring survivors for the first time. They'd never crossed paths or exchanged greetings before. One group consisted of several men. The other was a single male leading a party of women. The three parties exchanged glances, none surprised to see rival teams. No one spoke a word or lingered, lining up loosely to exit their carriages. Only a few minutes remained until teleportation. None of the strangers knew each other, and every team had already formed their own parties. No one wanted to invite outsiders and introduce unnecessary variables. Even though Qin Shou's trio looked reliable in their full tactical gear, they also radiated lethal danger. The other teams teleported out first. Once their carriage door sealed shut, Qin Shou opened his own. No landscape was visible beyond the threshold, only a blinding white energy barrier. Stepping through, Qin Shou instantly raised his shotgun, ready to engage at a split second's notice. The space beyond was pitch black and deathly silent, unnervingly quiet. He tapped the floor hard with the shotgun stock to create noise. No echoes or strange sounds returned, confirming the area was secure for the time being. Looks like our luck's holding up. Still, stay vigilant. You two check if the power's active, then inspect every room for hazards. This place should be safe overall. He pulled out a tactical flashlight and swept the beam across the room. The living room boasted lavish modern furnishings with a distinctly feminine design aesthetic. The lounge alone spanned 30 square meters, with an attached dining area 15 square meters wide, fitted with a long rectangular table, bar counter, and wine cabinet. The space was completely untrashed. Whoever owned the home had fled before the outbreak hit. There might have been a housekeeper, but her whereabouts were unknown. He unlatched the double-door fridge in the kitchen, finding minimal food stock. Mostly fruit, a handful of vegetables, and frozen meat. The majority of the contents were cartons of milk, fruit juice, beer, and refrigerated packaged treats like chocolate and cheese sticks. Judging by the slight yellowing of the few remaining fruits and the crisper, The homeowner and staff had been gone for over a week. Water and electricity are both cut off, which is to be expected. From the balcony window, this must be the top floor. The rest of the city below is completely dark, save for faint glow from what look like solar streetlights. The fridge vegetables only just started wilting, so the power went out fairly recently. Chinsho circled the apartment and laid out his analysis. He owed all this survival know-how to binging endless survival and doomsday videos back in his old world. Once useless trivial knowledge had finally become vital. He'd even watched tutorials on navigating verbal sparring with cunning ancient bureaucrats, plus guides for manufacturing monosodium glutamate, soap, rock salt, seamless steel pipes, and flintlock firearms from scratch. Shortly after, Lu Tao and Yukino the Snow Maiden returned, brimming with excitement. This penthouse belonged to a single female executive in her 40s, who shared the space with her female personal secretary and maid. 3 women total. It seemed the owner had no children or husband. They deduced this easily by examining the wardrobe's clothing styles, documents, and framed photos on the desk. The apartment held 6 rooms total, 3 bedrooms, a study, a yoga gym, and a storage closet piled with miscellaneous junk. There was also an indoor small swimming pool, empty of water and too shallow for full swimming. Fine for splashing around, but only children could float in it. It could have been converted into a hot spring bath, although the owner had never gotten around to it. Or it might have been designed as a combined hot spring and pool from the start. No wonder the decor leans so feminine, Chinsho muttered. Yukino the Snow Maiden had struck loot in the study and master bedroom safe. Piles of gold bars, luxury jewelry, wristwatches, and several stacks of worthless paper currency. The quantity wasn't massive, but a rough estimate put its trade value at roughly 10 million points. Darling, can we take the armor off now? Take off what? The Tier 6 helmet and vest, they're so heavy. Oh, that's what you mean. The penthouse sat in the city's central prime luxury district, mirroring high-end residential towers like Thompson Riviera. It featured a private elevator for the single unit on each floor, and this top-floor penthouse spanned approximately 690 square meters. Chinsho emptied the hot water stored in his storage ring into the oversized bathtub in the master bedroom and the indoor swimming pool, to serve as their bathing water for the 7-day survival period. He'd given the empty pool a quick scrub before filling it, as it had collected a thin layer of dust from disuse. Once all preparations were finished, Chinsho stepped onto the balcony with military binoculars to scout the surrounding residential complex and streets. After confirming the other buildings nearby were all dark with no visible light sources, he deployed a military reconnaissance drone to fly high overhead for aerial surveillance. Launching the drone risked exposing their position, but he'd never get any intelligence otherwise. He wouldn't be able to sleep soundly tonight without recon data. Other survivors could be hiding in any apartment in this complex, or nearby shops and residential blocks. As for native inhabitants, the only living things outside were the howling, shambling zombies. All human survivors in this fallen city were passengers from the interworld trains. There was no telling how many there were. Their single train was far from the only one to deliver survivors to this zone. I scanned the area with my X-ray vision earlier, but it's too dark to make out much. Although I can confirm there's no sign of other people nearby. Lu Tao had stood beside Chinsho to observe the streets at first, then wandered back inside to check the rest of the unit. Yukino the Snow Maiden sorted through the fridge's edible ingredients, arranging the salvageable fruit into a fruit platter. Little Chin, find anything noteworthy? Nothing yet. By the way, do you smoke? I found a carton of women's menthol cigarettes in the master bedroom. I don't really smoke these days. Chinsho stepped back inside from the balcony, stowing his binoculars and recon drone. Even on the high floor, the stench of rotting corpses wafted up from the zombie-choked streets below. He slid the glass balcony door shut and glanced at the unopened carton Lu Tao held out to him. The packaging alone screamed luxury. He'd smoked in his past life, but had quit entirely in this new reality. Still, he didn't turn it down, tucking the carton into his storage ring for later. He could go without smoking day to day, but a cigarette would hit perfectly after tough missions. Moments spent pondering the origin of the universe or the meaning of life. It's sweltering in here, but opening the balcony door lets in that awful rot smell. I picked up an 8-inch outdoor camping fan. We can chill it with ice water too. Here's a fully charged 1 kilowatt-hour portable power bank. Just plug the fan in. Hee hee. You think of absolutely everything. Little Chin, his 5 cubic meter storage ring held more than enough space. With surplus points, he bought every conceivable supply he might possibly need. Just in case. Lu Tao unzipped her tactical top, stripping down to her sports bra, then flopped lazily onto the sofa to cool off in front of the fan. Growing accustomed to air conditioning had left her extremely sensitive to muggy heat. Darling, all this fruit is safe to eat. I scanned every piece with the food detector you bought. The food detector was a specialty shop item sold on the train market, designed to test scavenged rations for edibility. Expired goods, toxins, rot, and contaminants could all be identified with a scan. It carried a steep price tag of 100,000 points. It was equal parts incredibly useful and borderline redundant, considering their massive stockpile of preserved meals stored in the ring. Yukino the Snow Maiden carried the fruit platter over to Chinsho, picking up a toothpick to feed him bite by bite. She also fetched canned drinks from the fridge for Lu Tao and Chinsho to share. They were familiar carbonated soda pops, just branded differently, with the same iconic red and blue packaging design. Whoever designed this parallel world's consumer goods had clearly copied Human Earth's recipes. Burp. Pure bliss. The moans of the zombies below couldn't penetrate the penthouse's walls. Other than the total darkness and sticky heat, the shelter had virtually no flaws. They could easily survive here for a full year with sufficient supplies, let alone 7 days. Well, no one had ever tested it. Who knew if it was truly feasible? Humans were social creatures. Even 3 people cooped up in isolation for 12 months would inevitably crack under the strain. Everything's pitch black outside, and Sister Lu's X-ray vision can't pierce the darkness well enough. Here's the plan. The 3 of us will take turns keeping watch tonight. Come dawn, we'll sweep and scavenge every floor of this residential tower. We'll hunt for zombies and rival survivors while searching for viable escape routes. We need to check if the vehicles in the underground garage are functional and map out the street conditions outside. That's our priority tomorrow. We still have zero intel on the rescue team's location or extraction zone, so we need to draw up backup contingency plans. As for killing zombies, they'd test tomorrow if slaying the undead rewarded points. If not, wasting ammo on them would be utterly pointless. If he could exchange them, Chinsho had tens of thousands of bullets, piles of grenades, and even RPG launchers in his possession. More than enough to rake in a staggering fortune in points. But Chinsho figured it was unlikely. The mission brief had made no mention of weaponry being tradable. Survival and evacuation were the top priorities. Combat and scavenging came second. Combat here could mean fighting the undead or clashing with other human survivors. He pulled out his phone. Miraculously, it still worked, and the cabin chat channel was buzzing with lively conversation. The member count hadn't risen, though only passengers from the same train could speak in this group chat. Wait a second, a brand new chat channel just popped up. It's the regional chat channel. This fixed one major limitation. Survivors from different trains could now communicate, at least to an extent. It was highly likely anyone stranded within the same city could converse in this temporary regional channel. Disclaimer once more. This is a fictional parallel world with altered, original plot details, ORs. Hearing this, Lu Tao quickly pulled out her phone. Flustered and anxious, she immediately opened the regional channel and called out her biological daughter's pet name, Xiaoyan. Her full name was Wang Yuyan. Yes, exactly Wang Yuyan. What's more, she bore a striking resemblance to the A-list star Shi, known as the Heavenly Beauty. The two had even sworn themselves sworn sisters because of their matching looks. Come to think of it, Lu Tao had received a film offer a few years back. She'd only agreed to take the role to repay an old favor. She'd been cast as Li Qingluo, Wang Yuyan's mother, in the new remake of Demigods and Semi-Devils. The young actress playing teenage Wang Yuyan back then had been none other than Shi. Coincidentally, Lu Tao's own daughter Wang Yuyan had landed the part of the child version of the character, with Shi portraying her teenage counterpart. The series blew up overnight, sending the remake's popularity through the roof. It also reignited Lu Tao's fame after years of semi-retirement had dimmed her public profile. But all hope quickly crumbled for Lu Tao. She'd clung to desperate expectations, only to be met with crushing disappointment. Plenty of people replied to her messages in the regional channel, yet none had relevant information. Either her daughter was stuck in another city, or she lacked the 10,000 points required to unlock and use a survivor phone. Then came the twist. Her biological daughter Wang Yuyan never responded, but her sworn daughter, the Heavenly Beauty Lu Cece, did. Cat lover, godmother, is that you? Life was full of such bizarre coincidences. Users could set any display name they liked. Changing it later cost 100 points. Consumed with worry over her daughter's safety, Lu Tao had spammed the channel calling out her girl's pet name, and somehow drawn out the megastar Lu Cece, now a powerhouse healer-type trait holder. The childhood nickname matched perfectly. Chinsho watched as the two exchanged several key identifying questions, then sent friend requests to move sensitive details to private chat. Confirmation arrived soon after. This really was her godmother Lu Tao. For those wondering how they'd become sworn mother and daughter, as covered in the previous chapter, Lu Tao's birth daughter was named Wang Yuyan. To repay a favor, and at the director and investor's request to drum up hype, Lu Tao had taken the role of Li Qingluo in the new Demigods and Semi-Devils reboot. The actress cast as her on-screen daughter Wang Yuyan had been Lu Cixi. By pure chance, Lu Tao's real daughter shared the character's name and filmed the childhood scenes alongside Cixi's teenage arc. The two families grew close from constant on-set interaction. Lu Cixi's mother Lu Xiaoli had wholeheartedly supported the bond. They shared the same surname Lu, and the two girls looked eerily alike. The women agreed to take each other's daughters as sworn goddaughters. The girls called each other sisters, while Lu Tao and Lu Xiaoli referred to one another as sworn sisters. As both were A-list celebrities, their schedules kept them apart most of the year. Little Qin, I found my girl, but not my birth daughter, my sworn daughter. Lu Tao lifted her head, a bitter smile tugging at her lips. A sworn daughter could never replace blood. Still, learning Lu Cixi and her mother Lu Xiaoli were alive and well eased her mind a little. Your sworn daughter is Heavenly Beauty Cixi? Qin Shou stared in shock. What a small world. The blockbuster Demigods and Semi-Devils reboot from a few years prior had been plastered everywhere with promotional material. So he knew their backstory well. Even before he'd met Lu Tao, Qin Shou had crossed paths with Lu Cixi. You didn't have to work in the entertainment industry to rub shoulders with A-list starlets. After all, once you had wealth and status, you naturally sought out such connections. Who knew what opportunities might arise? How had he gotten access to that circle? Fortune turns on a dime. The novels he'd plagiarized from his past life had been adapted for television in this timeline, premiering last year. And he'd poured his own capital into the production as an investor. As a major client, he'd handpicked a capable director, convinced other investors to pour massive funds, and pushed for deep, faithful adaptations of the IP and more. To make big money, you first had to spend big money. He'd even greenlit feature-length film adaptations of key emotional arcs, like The 3-Year Promise. His novel royalties from copied works ran into hundreds of millions, so money was no object. His only fear was the production falling flat, mocked for cheap CGI and disjointed storytelling just like the shoddy adaptations from his past life. To fix that, he'd hummed the melody of a hit song from his old world, hired composers to rework Breaking Cocoon as one of the series' main theme tracks, set to play during the protagonist's pivotal breakthrough scenes against adversity. He'd also reworked a handful of other classic hit tracks, tweaking them slightly to pitch for inclusion, including straying into Heavenly Manor, Progress Jingle, Settlement Jingle, and Zhu Family Theme. He couldn't write lyrics or compose scores himself, but he could hum rough drafts of songs from his past life and pay professionals to polish them. With cash on hand, he even earned a credited creative consultant title for the music. As a lead investor, he held casting sway as well. Lu Cixi landed the female lead role, while veteran actor who beloved by audiences took the male lead. Both had been young, handsome, and red-hot fresh off the smash hit remake of Chinese Paladin 1, making them the perfect fit for the leads, each fulfilling a long-cherished acting dream. I see now. That's how you crossed paths with their mother and daughter, Lu Tao said, clicking her tongue in amazement as she listened to his backstory. It made perfect sense. She'd first connected with Qin Shou after discovering he was a writer. Both she and her daughter were avid readers of his novels, and fans of the first season of their television adaptation, sparking their ongoing friendship. With his standing as a wealthy author and production investor, he naturally had countless chances to meet other A-list actresses. Where are they right now? Ask her. Qin Shou rubbed his hands together, barely containing his excitement. Think about it. This mother-daughter duo were elite healing trait holders. He'd only met them a handful of times on set before the end times, and their relationship had never been close. He'd never even gotten their personal phone numbers, only contact info for their agents. But everything was different now. This was the end of the world. The rules had completely shifted. Back before the apocalypse, they'd kept their distance to protect their careers, and Qin Shou hadn't been a powerful enough industry tycoon to warrant deep personal ties. That said, Lu Xiaoli had taken his advice and accepted a small supporting role as the male lead's late mother, appearing in just a few short scenes. Compared to their counterparts in his past life, this timeline's Heavenly Beauty mother and daughter were far more dedicated to acting. Lu Xiaoli, for instance, had portrayed the Queen Mother of the West in both The Legend of the Lotus Goddess and the international blockbuster Kung Fu. Both women were at the peak of their fame when the disaster struck. I got the location out of her. She sent over some photos. Take a look, see if anything rings a bell. They're holed up in a residential apartment building, Some residential complex, she thinks. A short while later, Lu Tao handed her phone over for Qin Shou to examine. He skipped most of the chat logs, focusing on the key details and several photos taken out of the apartment window. Sorry, nothing jumps out at me. It's far too dark. I can't make out any distinct building features or storefront signage. Qin Shou frowned and sighed. He was no detective, so he couldn't cross-reference the blurry photos with the sites he'd scouted earlier from the mall balcony via binoculars and drone footage. There simply weren't enough visual clues to pinpoint their location. It's all right. They're safe for now. Lu Tao took back her phone and softened, noticing his dejected expression. She moved to comfort him. She'd watched every flicker of emotion cross his face the second he'd heard the name Lu Cece. Typical men, she thought. A twinge of jealousy pricked her heart, yet she dared not voice any objection. Their shared trait buff and the daily growth passive grew stronger with every new teammate Qin Shou recruited. The more powerful he became, the safer all of them would be. Add his unrivaled luck trait into the mix, and their odds of surviving this brutal end time skyrocketed. They might even live comfortably, happily. Ahem. She pushed the distracting thought aside. Her own birth daughter was still missing, waiting desperately for rescue. If the girl ran into trouble without enough strength to defend herself, Lu Tao would regret it for the rest of her life. Forget it. No use making excuses for myself. Even if I wanted to stop him, I couldn't anyway. Lu Tao forced a bitter laugh and took a sip of her carbonated drink, which tasted anything but comforting. Somehow, she couldn't shake the sinking feeling that reconnecting with her sworn daughter might not be a good thing after all.